Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be in the world. Welcome to tradertv.live. Bit of a mixed start to the morning for North American stock futures this morning, the day after the S&P 500 closed above 3,400 for the first time ever. Another record high yesterday. The Dow's set to open up about 100 and change points at this point, I guess we should say. Big major reshuffling announced when it comes to the Dow 30 this morning. Salesforce, Amgen, and Honeywell set to replace ExxonMobil, Pfizer, and Raytheon Technologies. Those changes will go into effect before the open on Monday, so August 31st. Those changes again, Salesforce, Amgen, Honeywell set to replace ExxonMobil, Pfizer, and Raytheon Technologies. That move from the S&P follows Apple's decision to split 4-to-1, significantly reducing the Dow's exposure to tech stocks right across the board. Individually this morning elsewhere, watching rocket companies once again to the upside. The move continues for Rocket. Fifth straight session, gapping higher. We'll have a look at Rocket shares. Best Buy set to open sharply lower. BBY shares to the downside this morning, even with a solid earnings report out after, or this morning it was actually, Best Buy reported. And on the economic front, we'll get July new home sales numbers coming up at 10 a.m. this morning. It's Tuesday, August 25th, 2020. TraderTV.live starts now. And there we go. Look at Asian markets from the overnight session. You can see just Chinese markets, both Hong Kong and Shanghai to the downside. Everything else nicely higher. Let's go over to Europe and see how things are shaping up so far this morning. Back to the upside for most markets here. Outside, just Turkey to the downside there. Let's go to North America here and have a look at how futures are setting up. NASDAQ did go red there. Yeah, 0.12% to the downside. What's higher when I sat down this morning? TSX futures here in Toronto, 0.35% to the upside. Look at Bitcoin, 2% lower. We have gold trading in negative territory as well, 0.47%. Sean's vacation continuing this week, all week long, so Arun back with us this morning. Guys, another interesting look so far this morning. A lot of individual names. This Urban One, U1, if you remember from way back when, big high flyer, back on the move this morning with no reason I can see anyways.
There wasn't a tremendous reason before. Look, it's worth noting that Urban One, for anyone that looks at that, the last 5 days has been getting crushed. So it may be a dead cat bounce or something along those lines. Obviously, Arun's in, did a fantastic job yesterday. Look forward to it again today. Looking pretty dapper in. I see you got the Trader TV hoodie on there, Arun. I love it. I actually forgot to bring mine back in, so maybe I'll put it on later on in the week. But there's just so much to get to. No guarantees about those Dow components moving. I think when Walgreens came in, it wasn't necessarily a gigantic bounce, but let's watch out for a little bit of Salesforce today. And I don't know how much of a drag it'll actually be on XOM or Pfizer there.
Yeah, when it comes to those three components that are being put in the Dow, Amgen, Honeywell, and CRM Salesforce, I really like those for activity. I'm actually keeping an eye on AMGN. It actually broke the level that I wanted to short at and just kept running. So I've actually got a pending order just in front of 244 with a 246 stop to get some shares pre-market. I like that setup. So definitely those Dow components that are getting put in, that's something to keep an eye on for the rest of the day there.
Yeah, definitely moving in the pre-market. Worth mentioning, though, guys, keep in mind, again, those effects don't come into effect. Those changes, I should say, don't come into effect until next Monday, the 31st, pre-market. So that'll happen before the bell next Monday morning. Let's have a look at what's coming up a little bit later in the show. Another brand new educational video coming your way. Stop limit orders versus market orders. So we'll talk all about the differences between the two. There are very, very specific situations where you should use one and or the other. We'll explain all of that. So Valeria will have that link for you coming up a little bit later in the show. Speaking of Valeria, let's go over to the desk and say good morning to her.
Good morning and hello everyone. I wish you a great trading day and we are here as usual to make it only better. Please sign up to our daily free watch list at the link I'm sending on the chat and subscribe to this channel to receive notifications when we are back on air. Guys, please support and smash the like button. Let's get it started and back to Brandon.
Let's indeed get it started, guys. Yeah, if you enjoy the show, we do it every single morning, guys. The market is open. If you enjoy it, you find value in it, all we ask is you simply share it with a friend, share it with 1, 2, 3 friends, however many you feel necessary. But all we want to do is grow the community, grow the audience, get the message out there. Let's get into what is moving around in the pre-market this morning. Best Buy, we mentioned, reported better than expected quarterly results right across the board, benefiting from higher demand from work from home for computer equipment and peripherals for computers as well. Comparable store sales up 5.8% in the second quarter, ending August 1st. That beat expectations of a 3.7% increase. It was the growth forecast, however, that came into the downside. So they did warn growth going forward has a big question mark beside it at this point. So a little bit of a negative look here, guys, for BBY this morning.
Yeah, I kind of wish we had that that all-time high song so we could joke about the fact that very, very briefly on those earnings it did crack to a fresh high, turning around at like a 120. But like you said, it's a growth outlook there that has it selling off just a little bit here. Worth sort of noting, just as I look at the 10-minute and zoom it for you guys a bit here, this 110 area, solid support on Best Buy. It does bounce off that, off that little move to the downside off of what you just mentioned. 115 is going to be the key level for me looking at today. Certainly yesterday's bottom, it was a previous week high through that 115 mark. I think it's going to be a little bit of resistance. If we get some sell action there, I'd like to be in front of it. There's always a breakout chance when you get a level like that. My first look, of course, would be to sell with the party in front of 115 on Best Buy.
Yeah, for me, Best Buy is one of those stocks that just kind of came in pre-market and blew up the range. The closest level I've got up there is 120. Of course, that's the top when we kind of pre-market high, when we kind of just went wild. So 120 break, that's a trade for me. But on the bottom end, Neil's levels that he's marking off around that 110. Yeah, you go back a few days, going back to the 15th, 16th, 17th, or that area, 14th and 17th trading day. It is a ton of action between 111 and 110. So that's definitely an area to keep an eye on. I won't be trading it just because I can't find a clean level. So I've got other stocks in mind. But that's definitely one to watch for all you scalpers that like to play off of key areas. That's one to look at there.
We saw a number of different individual stories in the airline group yesterday. The group itself benefiting from the positive vaccine move, the convalescent plasma move from the FDA, giving that the emergency use authorization on the weekend for treatment of COVID patients. So airlines were higher across the board yesterday. American came out saying the EPA granted emergency use for an antivirus cleanser as well that they plan to use. Delta this morning announcing they will furlough 1,900 more pilots as of October. So AAL, worth mentioning, guys. AAL definitely the most active in the pre-market, but Delta here, DAL, up 1%. You can see all of these charts as of yesterday look pretty similar, but Delta here also doing some volume in the pre-market.
Yeah, I mean, they're both gapping upside here. America's actually up, 2.5%, and that was the good break that we're looking at 1370 yesterday. Sorry, 1270 yesterday. It's 1370 right now. I have a level here like 1435-ish. I think to the upside is the next sort of resistance point if you want to be watching it. But look for this pre-market top here at 1390. I'm not in love with these sort of pre-market breakouts if it's right in front of that even dollar. So if we get through those two prices, like the 90, the 14, I think you're looking at that 1435 is the next stop to the upside. If we're looking to fade this one today, there's always a chance you can get in this nice little pre-market breakdown here at like 65 even. That would be a scalp trade for me. I'm going to stick to the upward break that we've basically been seeing. No dip buying in American Airlines for, unless I see something on a big sell-off, that sort of holds like a 13 area at like 10:30, 11 o'clock, maybe something along those lines for dip buying. I'm just looking to see if there is a break possibility at 14, and we can run that to that 35.
Yeah, with Delta as well, DAL, this is coming up to some resistance up, going back to the 11th and the 12th, the highs in that area, around 3040, 3050. You can just round that up a little bit. There's a lot of action. It is starting to slow down a little bit at pre-market as well, so that's possibility of fading this trade. Technically, I'm not going to jump into this. I'm not a fan of fading trades unless I got a pretty good read on the market as a whole. So for me, the area is there. If the setup it comes into play later on, that's a possibility. But at the moment, no. But it is an area to watch there up on Delta, just above 3040.
Go back to the electric vehicle group, guys. NEO, big move yesterday, or NIO, I should say. NEO, the company, big move yesterday off of the open to the upside. Back on watch here this morning, a little bit active in the pre-market once again. UBS with an upgrade on the stock this morning from sell to neutral, but doing volume back above that 15 level for, this is not NIO, this is U1. Still watching this crazy U1 this morning. But yeah, let's have a look at NIO, guys.
I'm with you. I got that one up as well, watching the crazy action. But Neo, there was only one trade that I had yesterday, and was just the simple breakout and then just sort of taking out in front of 15. And maybe there was a bottom pick on the dip buy that held that pre-market low. I think if you're looking at the same thing, we're right at that 15 mark. So if it does sell off, I probably think 1470 is that likely range to be looking for that buy opportunity on the way down. As far as the breakout to the upside, I don't like it quite as much as I did yesterday. Sort of worth looking at the daily chart to see. Next level up here, that 1590 range. So there is some juice to get you towards that lower, or sort of a lower high that we put in a few weeks ago. But I don't love that breakout as much as yesterday. I'll probably take a little bit off the top for 1530 break, but be much more interested in seeing where I can pick it up in case there's a bit of a sell-off there on Neo.
Yeah, for me, Neo, I'm marking off 1495 as an area. I think that 15 could hold out well. If it doesn't hold out 1495 and it takes that out, I think we really have a chance to go down. Of course, given the range, it's a little tight. So the expectations for this breakout, it's not going to be that high, maybe 20, 25 cents. That means the risk also has to be somewhere in that range. But 1495 is the area I'm going to look at. I've actually got an alert out for this in the event that it actually breaks, that I'll be actually aware of it happening. Just quickly, before we get back to Brendan, I'm also looking at Honeywell as well. Honeywell breaking 164.75 for me. So I'm actively trying to get into that. Well, not actively. I'm passively trying to get into that in the pre-market there. So that's something to keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, Honeywell, guys, if you're just joining, lots of people just coming into the room right now, if you are one of those. So the news this morning, Honeywell set to replace ExxonMobil, Pfizer, and Raytheon. So Salesforce, Amgen, and Honeywell. That's why Arun mentioning it right now. Set to replace ExxonMobil, Pfizer, and Raytheon on the Dow 30. That's set to take place next Monday, the 31st, before the market opens. Let's talk about Tesla here, guys. A couple of things on Tesla this morning that are kind of interesting. They're now taking orders or pre-orders for the Shanghai build Model Y SUV. The company CEO, Elon Musk, also tweeting that the next, I guess, kind of generation batteries, or the next shift in batteries, could see a 50% increase in capacity, and that could be set to take place, within the next 3 to 4 years, they're saying. So a little bit of positivity. Tesla opening down for the first time in 3 or 4 sessions here, but a couple of positive stories here, guys.
Yeah, I mean, the story is going to be yesterday, I think, the sell-off that Tesla saw through 2100. It is trying right now. I mean, you're sort of gapping down again, down 2% despite that positive news. But you are certainly seeing this 1960, low 60s bottom, 63 from yesterday. There was sort of like a secondary bounce bottom here that's being tested again. And I think if that goes to the downside, like a 1960, you're probably going to see a test of the 20 or even that even area 1900 where that great breakout was from before, and you can certainly see that looking at last week's price action. So I don't know, if this news is going to be enough to drive this one to the upside based on what I saw yesterday. We're right below that 2,000 mark, which does give you a bit of a scalp trade through there if it holds up. But I'm going to look to see if we can't. I mean, I don't love shorting Tesla's. I just saw Rocket burst through like a 30.55, like a 400,000 order just got taken out, and then it just cratered all the way to 30 even. So watch out for Rocket there, testing the pre-market low. I was going to watch that one to see if it bounced off 30. Didn't expect that at 914, but still looking at Tesla here. Probably below that 2,000, I think we can have a short, maybe the breakdown of 1960.
Tesla is one of those stocks. It's too rich for my blood. It's too expensive. It's hard to read. I try and read volume and try to figure out where the action's happening. And Tesla's just one of those stocks that just does everything everywhere. So I'm going to stay away from Tesla. I try to stay away from these really expensive stocks. I'm chasing money, not excitement. So Tesla's a no-go for me.
All right, guys, let's go to Tortoise acquisition, SHLL. Big mover yesterday. Had a really nice move to the upside right from the word go yesterday. But Tortoise acquisition coming out this morning saying they're going to launch another SPAC. So there's Tortoise Acquisition 1, and now there's going to be Tortoise Acquisition 2 coming shortly to the market. It's going to be 250 million shares priced around $10 per share each. Worth mentioning, this has nothing to do with the Helion merger. So Tortoise Acquisition merging with Helion to take the EV company to market. But the second SPAC, guys, coming has nothing to do with that.
I really hope it's not down 5% because people sold it on that news. And if that's the case, I mean, wouldn't that be an opportunity to buy it here? It's worth noting a double bottom, sort of around 37.50, which is not exactly where we had a price in the afternoon. A little bit of a low there. And again, it's not that I'm saying you got to go pick this one up off of this level, but it's been relatively stable, I think, to the upside, and maybe it was just due for a correction. So it's entirely possible that that's the case, and it isn't people selling on the false premise that this is related. But that's the level I'm watching. I'm watching this 37.50. It's an area for me, so I need to see it sort of what it does when it trades below it, maybe even testing 37 on the way back in. Mild support down there at like 36.20, but we've seen this one rise from $25 to 42 in just a few sessions, so it wouldn't be crazy for me if it did decide to sell off here. And I'm watching this 37.50 to 37 area for a bit of a pullback trade. Could, if it bounces out there and finds some support, yeah, sure, like a 39 break, just for some momentum play to the upside, it could be there. But I'm first looking to see if this isn't an opportunity to sell with some profit taking.
For me, it's technically not the greatest of setups, but I do have an area marked off, or a specific level I've marked off, 40.25. If we can get some sort of a setup in front of that, I'm open to shorting it. Of course, if it breaks, I've got to judge the action, given that this is a 5-minute chart, by the way. I've got to judge the action once it breaks to see whether we can actually get a proper trade, given how it's moved yesterday in the late session. So 40.25, I'm keeping an eye on, see if we can get a trade in front of that. Just an update, I have taken my short on Honeywell here. I've got 164.70 pre-market. It's up 20 cents already, but it is pre-market with the spreads being fairly large. But that's something to watch as we go into the open. If it bounces back, I may have to judge the opening move to see whether I actually want to put up the risk that I'm going to on this trade.
All right, guys, let's go to GEVO, G-E-V-O. If you remember Thursday and Friday last week, or Wednesday and Thursday, one of those, this thing did 200+ million shares each day. A couple of days after announcing a big contract with Trafigura, which is an energy trading company or commodities company. So they are still up on that news. Actively traded, higher relative volume in the pre-market again this morning. This contract will see Trafigura take delivery of 25 million gallons per year of renewable hydrocarbons. Mostly, I was reading, in the gasoline and natural gas space. So this GEVO doing higher relative volume again this morning, guys, in the pre-market.
Yeah, and I'm eyeballing 160 is the level. When it did make the move to the upside, that pullback, it was a great we up. And I think, when we were trading it live, you guys all saw that we're watching along. And then you do get the pullback into this 160 high. Yesterday's stalling out at 150, which we've kind of broken through here. I mean, we're sitting with a 152 offer. But 160 is a level for me on GEVO. Yeah, there seems like there's support down at 120, but that's only going to matter if we fail off the open, or right away to get through 160, and then we can have some pullback sell opportunities, and that would be more like a target to your short. But first things first, let's look for a 160 break. If this one wants to come upside again, I think there's at least 20-30 cents worth of room before you run into the next level. I like this one. It does fantastic volume. Just want to hear Rocket again through $30. Some heavy selling going on in the stock right now. I was thinking maybe it would hold a bottom for a long, but this might be the day we're actually shorting Rocket for the first time. It's a tremendous amount of sell action here.
Yeah, for me, GEVO, I agree with Neil there. 160 is one level to keep an eye on. If we break 160 currently, if we move the way we're moving and we take 160, I'm going to put 145 as a stop. If it takes time to break 160, I'll have to judge where the stop is. But at the moment, 160 is the area that I'm watching as well with Neil. And it could be a potentially great trade, given how much action we're getting in front of it across multiple days here. So if 160 goes, we can get a nice little push potentially towards the $2 even, going up to the highs there.
Why don't we jump down to Rocket? I want to make sure we get to that before we get to the open this morning. So Rocket was up in the pre-market 60% higher than its $18 IPO price. The company came out and said they'll announce complete Q2 results on September 2nd. If you remember last week, they came out with preliminary results that were better than expected. That kind of ignited this move to the upside initially. But yeah, big gap up this morning, guys, but looks like we're fading back down for Rocket.
Yeah, it's done a great job of sort of holding pre-market bottoms on this run to the upside, and this is the one day where it hasn't. And again, Rocket is always a tricky one for me because when I get pre-market trades in it, it feels like I've gone in too early, and it's not necessarily the best play. And right now, we're busting through previous high yesterday at 30 even. That was the level I was looking for the break. The next level is to the downside. I mean, there's a lot of chop down below this sort of 29, like 2880-ish range, and that's from yesterday's afternoon action. Got to feel like maybe it runs into some support down there. My first look is going to be to fade this one if I can off the open. Maybe we can fade it into like 30 to 30.50. I feel like that could be wishful thinking. Rocket really heading southbound here in rapid fashion. I'm trying to do my best not to chase it at 920, but the FOMO, sometimes you got to resist it.
Yeah, you know, Rocket for me, it is coming down to that action from yesterday. So I'm definitely not pushing into a short right now, even if it's coming down fairly quickly. What I do want to see is I want to see what we do off of this 29.50, 29 even area. If we bounce strong, then I'm going to hesitate. But if we actually bounce and start to fade or start to lose steam on the bounce, I think we really have a chance to go short again with a 31 even stop, potentially right back into this 29 even area, and try to just be smart about what you're risking to get it, given we know that this area is going to be a little hot with this much action there. So 31 even if we get a proper bounce and actually start to fade this.
All right, we'll keep bouncing around here, guys. Sign up for the watch list if you haven't done so already. Between 9 o'clock and 9:30 Eastern every morning, we go through everything that's moving around in the pre-market on higher volume. So sign up for the watch list, guys. It's absolutely free. Valeria has the link for you in the chat there, and you can follow along with us. We'll bounce back up now to Apple. Apple still holding above, or actually it looks like it has broken to the downside here. The 500 level support is what I was mentioning there. They lost a court ruling yesterday. The first, if you remember last week, we were talking about Epic Games fighting them on their decision to remove Fortnite from the App Store. So the first decision came out yesterday. They've been blocked from shutting down a tool used by Epic Games for in-game purchases through their own website. So the court ruling coming out against them on that, but the overall judgment on whether or not they can remove them from the App Store, I guess, still to come, guys. This is just the first part of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of first story here. And like Apple, you know, you get that big bounce through 500, but you saw the sell action yesterday back through. So, you know, this is very similar to the chart that you saw on Tesla. We're sort of holding the bottom end of this range, and it gives you that weird little breakout pattern that I don't like usually trading in Apple. I resisted trying to short it yesterday. We'll have to look at this sort of 495 area and at least be willing to jump into those waters. I just want to update you. You guys do see a RNWK there. I know we're going to get to that one. I do have a short, but I've taken some off there. It's a 150 area short, and we're getting some out in front of 140. Ultimate target on that one is only down to 130 as it closed at 127. But Apple, unless we really find a pretty strong base at 95, I don't know that I'm going to be too heavily involved in any long party today. I tried to bottom pick yesterday. That was a failure.
You know, Apple, the thing with Apple is it's very hard to judge what this entire move up is based on. If it's based on rumors of us or on the news of a split, it does not fundamentally change anything except you get more shares at less of a price. So if it's just hype of that or misunderstanding of what actually happens after the split, then this thing is bound to come down at some point as the hype runs out. So I'm still trying to figure out whether it's just a hype run or it's actually a technically good move after the earnings, of course, but I mean, to this degree, that's something to judge. 500 seems to be a very, very round number. I've got 510 marked off. I think there's enough action in front of 510, especially with what happened yesterday. We are done with that date of record issue. So now, are we down to the downside off of this 510? That's going to be something interesting. Of course, we need to clear that 496 bottom. That is the one low from yesterday. If we get through 496, I think we really have a chance to start moving to the downside.
As far as the convalescent plasma stocks are concerned, guys, IBIO doing the most volume here in the pre-market this morning. Coming off, though, along with most of these stocks that we've been looking at, 250 was a bit of a level yesterday at the top end of the range. We're back towards this 220 now on IBIO. If you missed yesterday, obviously a whole group of these stocks moving higher on the news that the FDA had granted emergency use authorization for convalescent plasma treatment for COVID patients. So yeah, IBIO still up here nicely, 3.6%, 3.5 million, I guess, the bigger picture here as far as the volume is concerned.
Yeah, I mean, volume is going to be king when it comes to these names. And anytime you're looking at small caps, that's what it's all about. You got to get the trade action. I am looking at, like, 255 is a nice price to short off of also, but I would think the breakout would be at like a 260, 270 area in the event that it makes another ramp to the upside. It's worth noting here, and the only reason I haven't chased this one on a retracement play is just simply all the chop and support down at 215 to 220, both on the way up, and then when we came back in the afternoon. So it kind of limits the amount that you can make with a 230 short, so I'd much rather see it creep back up into this 40-45 area where I can use this top as an out, but then have some room for further trade to the downside. That's one of the reasons why I ended up picking our NWK for the short this morning as opposed to IBIO. It just felt like there was a bit more reward in terms of picking this one up. And again, I probably could have had this one. I'm going to make an assumption here. Usually Brendan pretty good at catching these consolidations before the rollover. I wait for it to come in through 157. This is our NWK here. They're making a bit of a deal. But we just fade this one all the way down to like 142 and then some out at 140. I'm going to hang on to the second half of these shares in case it goes all the way back down to that 1/4 mark. Otherwise, we're using first this 160 area off the open. If it breaks through that, I'll likely just take a bunch out to mitigate risk. And then I want to see if it holds 170. If it holds 170, I would slam back into the shares to the downside. Breakout would be through 175.
I'm back to IBIO. I marked off 280 yesterday. I think we can also mark off 260. Just be careful. The levels are fairly close together. There's a potential short in front of 250. So on a stock like this, I think it's $2.50 with levels 20 cents apart. I think on this stock, if you're going to go for a short, I think you can't risk any more than 10, 15 cents, given how close you are to the levels. So anywhere between 250 and 245, if there's a short there, if you can fade it, maybe use 260. On the downside, of course, it looks like there's some buying from 220 down to 210, and then, of course, the round numbers become too even, going down to 190. The levels are really tight. I'm staying away from this, but it is, for all the people that love to trade these low cap or low price stocks that are willing to take these tight trades, absolutely, right? It's still risk-reward ratio. You still can get 2 to 1 or 1 to 1 even. So this is still a possibility. I'm just going to focus more on Honeywell and AMGN at this point.
All right, Arun, we'll come right back to you here and have a look at the overall market, get some levels to be aware of on the futures this morning. We saw the first close above that 3,400 level yesterday. We are coming off a little bit along with some of these stocks here as far as the overall market is concerned. Still positive, but what are we looking at here today? Okay, so that 3410 level that I was talking about yesterday, in the event that we actually pushed higher, that becomes a level. That is now an official level for me. 3410 is still there. 3375 is there as well. And 3450 has just marked itself. After this down move now, 3450 is also in play for me. So what I'm going to do here, I've got 3450 and 3410. Those are the two closest levels, one above, one below. So what I'm going to do is if it comes down to 3425, sets up on the long side, I go long, 3410 on the stop. Of course, if it starts to bounce back up and starts to set up on the short side, I go short with the 3450. I'll play between both levels until we get a break on either end. Of course, I will flip directions depending on what I see. So it is completely dependent on what I'm seeing and where we are relative to the level that's nearby. So at the moment, it's coming down 34.35. Again, if we get to 34.25, I'm open to stepping up to 34.30 as well, but 34.25 preferably with 34.10 on the stop. Of course, there seems to be enough action in front of 34.50. There could be a nice little short there as well. All right, guys, 90 seconds, or about 90 seconds to go here. Ovid, OVID, another one, 23% to the upside this morning. They had a pediatric epilepsy treatment that had positive results on a phase 2 study. This is 10 up here, already topped out. That's gone. 850, another kind of area from the daily chart, or 830 to 850. So any kind of pop into this range from the pre-market, looking at this one to the downside. We are kind of consolidating tightly, though, underneath $8 right now as well, but you got to use that 8 as a hard stop, guys. Back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Ovid and then SGLB, I believe it is. LGB, I think I should say. Brendan did tweet that one out as well. This is up 60%, but coming off even more heavily on the sellback. It's literally given back half, 250 to 8, now consolidating below this $4 mark. So, I would have loved to have this one at 5, and we didn't have any locates at that time. We do have share shortable now. There is still some room to go if I wanted to take something south at 480. I'm going to look to see if maybe maybe off that consolidation, there isn't a quick little buy scalp opportunity. We only have about 40 seconds to go in here. I do have that RNWK to the south side, and watching Rocket try to hold up at 29.50 is getting pretty interesting at that price. I do want to take you guys quickly back to the airlines because American is making a slight press back up after a little bit of a fall here towards a pre-market low. So watch that 1390. I like 1390 to 14 for a possible break. I'm actually starting to think now there could be a fade trade if I can catch something like 75.80 on a rollover, failing to get through the pre-market high. But it's time to drop that count. I think Valeria is going to be. No, she's not. I have no idea who's going to be on dropping the bell here today. But there's Randy. She's going to just turn around. He's going to break the bell. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2. Market is about to open. Rocket. Wow, Rocket. Wow, here we go right immediately to the upside on American Airlines toward that 75.80 mark. I do want to see if it rolls over here, but Rocket, no chance. I tried to see if I could pick something up in the 29.50 to 70 range. It is just headed southbound, approaching 29. It just broke 29 even, so probably a party I should have joined in right away here, guys. It just feels like Rocket approaching yesterday's close and breaking it. The bottom here in the afternoon, 28.10. Man, if it doesn't hold that, that's going to get very, very interesting on Rocket. I got only RNWK to the south side in the money 10 cents here, and watching Rocket just crater here, Arun.
Yeah, you know, so a couple of trades here. I've got Honeywell. I mentioned to you guys pre-market. I've got Honeywell 164.70. It's about 46 cents in the money. It's still moving around fairly choppy, so we're not fully open yet. It looks like there. AMGN, I've got offers out. It doesn't seem to want to come back up to 244. I'll leave it out there. I still like the trade. And the other one that I really want, mRNA, broke through 64.40. For me, or sorry, 64.50. I've got an offer out around 64.40 with 65 even on the stop. So I've got a few offers out. One position that is still working its way into the open here. It doesn't seem to be a whole lot of activity on Honeywell just yet. And futures are moving closer and closer to that 34.25 area that I'm looking for a bid. I'm not going to jump in right away. Keep in mind, I'm not going to step right in. I want to see a setup here for me to actually jump into this trade. So it's getting closer to that 25. 34.10 is a stop on that there. And Brandon's got a stock for us.
American Airlines, guys, we mentioned the airlines pretty strong. Just took out AAL, just took out pre-market highs there. A nice move on decent volume, too. $14 coming here on AAL, now 4% to the upside.
Yeah, and immediately through that, like not quite through that actual top, but immediately through that pre-market high. I did mention I kind of like the 14 area even better than the 13.90. That's why I don't take it. If it fails at 14, I usually try a quick little dump short, but this really hasn't happened yet. I might go quickly short. No, forget about it. We're just going immediately along at 14.01. Let's see what happens. Pull back probably to like the 80 to 85 range. I think that's where I'd be a little bit comfortable adding to this position on a pull. But I'm watching the ES just like absolutely crater, and Rocket about to take out 28. There was just a monster buyer at 30.55 I saw in the pre-market that got absolutely destroyed on this name, guys. It was just the second it got through, it just absolutely cratered to the downside. I want to get quickly to CGIX. I do have an order. We didn't talk about this one at the pre-market here, but I have an order to break long on 550 if this one comes to the upside, and a bracket if it takes out the pre-market low. I'd have that one down. It's low volume right now, but CGIX in play yesterday. Looking for a 540 break. That's the only thing I'm looking at on that stock.
Yeah, you know, Honeywell is now turning around fairly aggressively. 164 did take they broke it, and then went all the way down to 163.55 and change. I've still got the position. I'm leaving it. I like the setup. I've pulled the order, however, on Amgen. It's gone. That trade is gone. I've missed the boat on that one. I couldn't get the fill. And as well, mRNA is also gone. I've got to pull the orders on those two. But the other one I'm keeping an eye on is BA. BA now, 177.50. That's an area to keep an eye on. I like how they've kind of trapped the 181 break and then came right back through. That opens at 177.50 for a potential short side move with 180 as a stop. So that might be a little expensive, $2.50, but that has potential given how fast and aggressive we moved yesterday. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. Nothing else has popped off on the radar for me, and it looks like Honeywell just absolutely turning around after the open. Let me just see what, 165.
But before we go to Brendan here, Arun, worth noting, Best Buy does bounce off of in front of this 110, 111 area that we're talking about there. So I still like the fade off of 115. Never quite got there at the open. Brendan, what do you got for us?
Another day, another multi-dollar move on Novavax here off of the open. This time straight to the downside again. 112 in the pre-market. We're at 100 now, but it was 98 at the bottom there for NVAX, guys.
that stock just continues its slide here. Quickly, what we were talking about there, that Best Buy position, nothing yet, but 110 breaks. I'm probably going to trigger into this short, no short sell restriction or anything. So if we get a break through that price, we'll take the momentum to the downside. I would have much preferred to work off that 115 area. It does not give any kind of a sort of a gap fill upside entry point for me. So it looks like we'll be bottom picking for the sell side break on Best Buy. You did mention a couple of names in there, Brennan, but I want to quickly jump over to Tesla and U1. This one continues to slide to the downside, holding a 6 even. I'm going to short this 6 even break. I mean, this stock, if it wants to go all the way to 415, it wouldn't be crazy. It's just been getting so badly crushed the last week and a half. It's hard not to join this party when it starts that slide. And on volume, it's immediately testing this 6 even here on U1. I'm taking the break. We had to pay for shorts here. So not everyone is able to go short here. We can day trade the world, so I'm going to take advantage.
Yeah, okay, so just an update on the Honeywell. That completely turned around after the open. You were up 70 cents. If you were like me and were expecting more, absolutely not. They flipped around, took off the top there, or not the top, but they completely took out the stop there. So I'm going to move away from that. That's a hit. And we're going to more focus on BABA and BA. BA, I mentioned to you guys, 177.50. That's an area that I'm keeping an eye on. That is now at 178, getting closer and closer, aggressively getting closer and closer. That's one to watch. And as well, BABA is also getting close to that one, what's the level I've got on BABA? Well, 275.70 is an area that I'm keeping an eye on. I see a lot of action here in front of 276 going out, 276 going up to 277. So 275.70 is an area, if we get below there, I think we've cleared this zone. We have now a chance to go through. Of course, there will be most likely a bounce before that actually goes through. I don't see them flushing right through fairly quickly, but that is an area that I'm watching out. Anyone who wants to play a bounce, potentially right there, 277 going down to 275.50 or 275.70.
Arun, I got to quickly jump in here for a couple of things. I'll get to U1 and the nice winner in a couple of seconds, but IBIO bouncing hard off 220. We did mention could be support there. Oh, look, it fails that 255 high. Make sure you check our watches. We talk all about this one. Had a 255 top end. We like the break through that price, but if it rolls over, failing at that pre-market high, that's the entry that I always like. I do pick up some shares here at 48. I will take some off for the quick little scalp in front of 40, and then I'm likely to take some mid-30s and then a retest of that 220 low. So that's first things first over on IBIO. But U1K, I was able to quickly sort of interrupt there and give you that 6 even break. I don't mind joining this party, even if it's going to be, like I said, late. 520 even is the pre-market low on U1, and it's hard to be short at like 587, 589, the 2 entry points that I got. And look, this gift horse square in the mouth. I'll probably take the 10% return if I can catch it down around that 520. And as I say it, maybe, look, I could have punched out at 41s there. It just halted downside action. So U1 now halted to the downside. I do have to make sure that this is indeed a volatility halt and not just news related. Brendan, what do you got for us?
Yeah, I'll double check on that. Micron, guys, big move higher for Micron, 3.6%, blew through 45 there. That was that high from the pre-market. They launched a new portable solid state hard drive, guys, SSD, a portable one, guys.
Okay, so BA has taken out that 177.50. Now I'm judging the risk on this, $2.50. That's gonna be a little expensive for me. I see a lot of activity going down to 175.50. That's not exactly what I want. So what I'm gonna do is if we get through back above that 178.50, I'll like to fade right into this little area here, the high between yesterday's late session and this morning's pre-market around 6 a.m. around 178.50. I like that risk. That's about $1.50 working this zone. Yeah, so that trade is now active. I'm going to go ahead and send an order around 178.50 for that as well. Keep in mind, BA is getting closer and closer to that 275.50. Just a quick update on the futures. It seems like the futures is moving the market fairly aggressively here. We're getting closer and closer to that 234.25. Expect a ton of action around there, because we spent a lot of time trying to go up through there yesterday, and then we finally took a late session in the final half hour yesterday. So 34.25, I'm expecting a lot of activity here to kind of slow this market down. That could activate, if you guys are trying to kind of judge the timing of entries, hot zones around the futures will help your stock trades as well, because the market's going to bounce as a whole, right? So that can help you out there. So that timing wise, we might be getting closer and closer to getting some longs, but in terms of shorts, I'll just wait for that potential move back up as I go for the short there.
If there's one thing that you guys really got to take from what Arun is talking about, is even if you're not trading the futures, those hot zones are just incredibly important in terms of market moves, bottom picking. I know when I run into trouble, it's because I ignore what the futures are doing. I want to jump back quickly. IBIO, break through 55. does not take out the 60 level to the upside, so snaps right back in. The bid was muted above that price. So it's a bit of a sign of weakness for me, and I'll roll over and take a few more shares short here. Again, if you want to jump to the higher time frame very quickly, this is what we noted here in the pre-market, the 260 and a 270 level to that upside. That's why I don't love the breakout long at the actual pre-market top there. I want to see if it actually fails at that better or higher level, and then I can add to my short position, make a bit of a judgment call. And the judgment call I made here is add to the short when it fails at 260. So I got 49s. I am in the money and waiting on that halt in U1. Obviously, we know that one's going to be in play again. I still maintain my first target on IBIO, but I'm just hoping that'll open up to the downside, which it was when it did make that halt. Brennan, what do you got?
Salesforce, guys, all-time highs here through that pre-market pivot there above 214. So this is one of those being added again to the Dow 30 coming up on Monday morning before the pre-market. So next Monday, CRM being added to the Dow 30 up 3% now, guys.
It's just not always that you see that you do get that bump up, and it's worth noting it hasn't taken out the pre-market highs here. So there still is a possible chance that there could be a secondary sell on the news here. That's what you saw off of the open. You're essentially looking at the pre-market top on just insanely low volume. And I don't always love these levels off of ridiculously low volume, but 216 would be that through the high end. I think if you're shorting it here, you're only giving it that $1. IBIO was rolling over a bit, but it's not really deep enough in the money for me to take anything out here, guys. So RNWK we got for a solid short. We got a good one on U1, but I also did want to make sure we don't get too far away from this potential break in CGIX. It's down 17%. It's more of a gap fill to the upside that I'm looking at potentially on CGIX through 540. That order is still locked and loaded and ready to go. And I'm also waiting on GIVO if it can break out of its range to see if we can get going. But I have to have my eyes on U1. Only a minute till that possibly opens up.
Okay, so a couple things. BA, that is just absolutely aggressively kind of going through its levels. So again, the risk profile for me, I'm waiting just in front of 178.50. That's about $1, $2 away. That's okay. If it needs to bounce and get me in, that's perfectly fine. If it runs, I'm not willing to pay up here. Around these prices, around the price that it offered me, 177.50, that's where the break actually happened. I wasn't willing to pay up $250 to get that trade, but I'm willing to pay up $1.50. If the market wants to give a bounce and give me that trade, perfectly fine. If it goes without me, that's also okay. A couple things. Amgen, remember I was looking for a short, and then it kind of took off on me down towards 241, and I pulled the order because I didn't like what was happening, or I missed, not I didn't like it, I just completely missed the boat on that trade. It was already $2 in the money if I had gotten it, so it wasn't going to happen. Here's the flip side of the trade. On situations like this, where I took the loss on Honeywell, there's no trade on the flip side, but on Amgen, if they take for 246, I'm perfectly okay running the flip side of the trade, and I'll go 246 long and then try to run a stop around 244. So I'll risk $2. I like that kind of a setup. The reason that kind of a setup works that much better is because it's a complete change in direction. To change a direction like that by $5 with after the open with the amount of volume that it takes, that tells me there's a lot of interest on the buy side. So 246 break, that's the long that I'm looking for on Amgen. That long with the 244 stop. Futures, of course, are now bouncing off that 24.30. Keep in mind, I did mention to you, I was 34.30. I prefer 34.25, but 34.30, if I need to pay up a little bit, I'm okay with that. 34.30, 34.10 is a stop. So around 34.30, 34.25, I'm willing to put up 15 to 20 points if we get the proper setup. Of course, 34.50 is the other side of that trade. So if we get back into this 34.40 and 34.45 and start to slow down a little bit, then potential shorts are open. But I'm open to going for the long on that one. And at the same time, BABA, guys, I mentioned to you guys, BABA going down to 275.70. This area, 277 through 276, that's an area of potential bounce. I prefer the break, but of course the bounce potential is there. It seems like it's bouncing. What I was looking forward to is the bounce. And if we go back again, I'd rather have this bounce, confirm that the buying is there, and then if we come back down again, I know that buying was not enough to support the bounce. That opens up the short that much better for me. So 275.70 is the trade that I'm looking at the moment. There's also two ways of doing this too. You can actually try to catch the bounce in front, and if it breaks, you can run the flip side, meaning short after the exit. So you take a loss on the first side. And as I'm talking, Amgen is breaking 240,
nice.
about to trade 246. So I am about to get long on Amgen. I know Neil's got something to say.
No, it's all about you want to open back upside. And the initial thought I had, and it's going to be very, very quick execution, is it holds the bottom. So I was thinking more short. I do take more of a short position in. I was in the money at 587, but just immediately after that, it bounces off of the pre-market low. So the second I see that, I take it all out. So the second shares are in and out flat, but the 87s were all out there for, like I said, about a 10% return down there. So U1, we could be done with this trade. I did reverse long, IBIO trying to take out that 260, so flushed out of that short and into the long breakout potential trade on IBIO. Still looking at that RNWK. That is still working for us. U1, all out, nice win. We'll see what's next in store for that name. Brendan, what do you got for us, buddy?
IO, guys, coming up to significant levels here. Watch this last wick up here, $15.90 to $16. A big time level. So up here, $15.90 to $16. Huge volume behind this move in NIO. Again, UBS with the upgrade on NEO today, guys.
Okay, guys, just a quick update. I have stepped into Amgen around 246. It is it's flipping around. It's about 10, 15 cents of the money, but that entirely depends on what the spread is, because the spread is also about 10 cents or so. So 246 break, 244 even stop. You'll see it here. You'll see my green arrow there. I got in long here, 246. I like this trade that much better. I mean, I had to take the hit on Honeywell, but I like this trade that much better because of the way it moved. The fact that it actually was willing to go down and then turn around, that opens the trade up for me that much. It's a much better setup for me, and also at the futures, the fact that they're hesitating around the 24.30, 24.25, more confidence there because the futures are hesitating. This is turning around. This opens up the trade for me on the other side. BA 178.50, 180 even. That is still the trade for me. I'm going to leave the order there. I want to see how aggressively we come up. If we shoot up quickly, I may pull the order and try to wait for it to slow down, try to get a better price. Of course, if we don't, I'm going to end up just kind of leaving it there and take the fill, right? And Baba is actually messing around here, around that same area that I mentioned. Amgen,
a quick look here, Arun, just bouncing back up, a $2 move off the bottom in Rocket. I do catch a bit of a consolidation here at 29. It's going to be VWAP, but also that 29 even mark. It is trying to test it, so I just went short here in the middle, 72. So we're in between the sort of 50 to 29 even area. I'll give it back to the even, give it back through VWAP, and then see if it makes a secondary push to 28, which would be my first target down there for 50 to 70 pennies, and then maybe a retested low. But Rocket, it just feels like today could be the selling if 29 holds. If it does not hold, I will not touch it. Likely southbound until like 30 to 31. Brennan, what do you got?
Big time mover here, guys. Vive, V-I-V-E, up on positive results from a study of treatment they're working on. Already halted a couple of times here. We blew through $1 at the open up to 130. So halted to the upside. Now we're halted on the way back down. 128% for VIVE, guys.
Yeah, that was one, and apologies to all those that were asking in the chat. We do cover a lot of names in the morning, and I have a pretty large list of stocks that I'm watching. And Vive, one that I definitely need to add. I'm just going to quickly make sure it's on my quote board for you guys. I mentioned the new position alert, of course, in our good friend Rocket, but I did not jump over to IBIO, which we reversed into the long trade. We talked about that 260 area. It does a bit of a pullback in here. So while it consolidates higher, I am taking a bit of a shot here on the pullback. I missed this all the way to 250. I end up having to add at like 256, which, chased it 4 or 5 pennies. We'll see what does happen. It's got to hold this sort of 240, 42 to 44 area for me to really like this breakout. 270 as well is a place where I'll take some shares out in front and then likely add on a secondary push. And we talked about 270 when we're discussing this one, which is on our watch list. Rocket, for me, hasn't really gone too far yet. This is not a name that I'm going to be looking to scalp for 10 to 15 penny winners or 20 like I have on here. It's got to test 28 for 50 to 70 cents, and then I want to see it get down to that 27.50 for over $1 win before I'm satisfied. Brendan, what do you got for us?
DraftKings going here, guys. Nice look for DraftKings. A little note there from yesterday, looks like involving the state of Illinois. But yeah, nice push here for DKNG, up 7.5%. Just broke 38 there on a huge volume spike, guys.
Oh, wow. Donkey Kong back in effect, guys. So, in the money on that Rocket, not a big deal, but I did get that CGIX break. We will cover that in just a quick second, but worth noting that DraftKings, whenever it's in play, it's because Sean's not here. Doesn't mean we can't look at Donkey Kong. It's another parabolic move to the upside, but you got to look for the daily 39.25 next spot upside. I would expect a bit of resistance there if it does actually get to this price. Let's look to see if there's a quick bounce back from that price where we can sell in front of. Maybe there's some size up there that we can work with. Otherwise, you're looking for a pull I would say likely back into like that 37.50-ish range before I would get involved in a dip buy. So first thing I'm looking for, let's see if 39.25 does provide resistance. Rocket in the money 35 pennies, but a holding, bit of a bid here showing up in the mid-30s. I'm looking to take some off closer to 28 even, but I might actually consider taking a third off with a 50 stop just to lock in some profit, but I'm not at that point yet.
Yeah, you know, a couple things with my positions here. Amgen is just completely coming off that 246. I'm a little concerned of the action that's above 246. That may have been a bad read there. So I'll leave the order. I mean, there's nothing to do at this point. You are into the trade, and there's no reason to take a hit on this one there. A couple things I've taken, a couple positions I have taken now is Facebook. Facebook, I like that breakthrough. What is it? 274.50 is the one I took here. Let me just pull up the chart here. I've taken the break above 274.50. That is about 20 cents in the money. That's making up for some of the hit that I'm taking on Amgen here. But at the same time, I also am looking at Netflix on the long side as well. Netflix passed 492, so it is backing off a little bit. But Netflix is something to keep an eye on as well. So we've got Facebook and Amgen. Netflix as well, I believe. Yeah, Netflix is... Yeah, I've got three positions. They're not doing too well right now. It looks like the market's not cooperating. Not my way to start the day, but hey, it is what it is, and we'll just play this one out.
I finally got something worth backflipping over here. We do get our first target there, Arun, on Rocket. I just took some shares off at 28.21, so I do get that sort of 50 to 60 cent win that we're looking for. First leg, remove liquidity on it. I'm trying to not be as passive as I've been, sort of just throwing bids out and hoping to get hit. It bounces off your orders far too often. Next target would be a 28 break, and I'd be looking for something in the 27.70, 60 to 70 range. That was the initial push to the downside where it did get its first bounce. And then from there, looking at that 27 low. Brendan, what do you have for us?
This one just popping up, guys, on a volume scanner here. GMHI, one from yesterday. Gore's Metropolis, that SPAC from yesterday. They're taking a company, I can't remember the name right now, but an autonomous driving company public coming up in Q4. So GMHI just popping up on a volume spike there, guys.
And I can't seem to win on IBIO. Look, I mean, sometimes you fade these ones, and it feels like it was the right call initially. I stayed away from the 255 break to the upside, and then like that 260. So that felt like it was a good idea, but if we cannot hold this low 240 range, I'm going to be jumping out of this IBIO trade. Ultimately, this is a break that I think gets you to $3. That's why you almost have to be willing to hold it through that 40. It's a bit of a bigger play in terms of regular scalping. And again, this has been under pressure, so the trend is to the downside. That's why initially I like that short. But if it can't hold 240, we're going to have to dump this one. You got to take the small cuts off on those and make sure that you don't turn them into big losing trades relative to what your winners are, of course. I want to jump back to U1. It ends up sliding a little bit further down, but it's getting pretty muted here, down around $5. So yeah, I could have had an extra 20 or 30 cents. It's just not, the risk reward at this point, short down here, isn't necessarily there for me. So I'm staying away from U1. If it gets back up to this like $7 range, I feel like it'll break some backs at 7, and that could be an interesting break. But that would be more like a short squeeze type play if I get a 7 break. Nothing fundamentally I like about U1, just a short squeeze break at 7 even.
Okay, so a couple updates, and I hopefully you guys are learning lessons from me. Okay, so Amgen is now perfectly fine. It's stepping back towards 246. If it starts to hesitate, I'm going to walk away from this trade. It's not going to do what I want it to do. There's more action there than I thought. Facebook has backed off the 274.50 break. It is off $1 now, but it is perfectly fine. As long as it stays above 273, I'm okay with it. 273 even, I'm okay with it. That trade's fine. Netflix is where I majorly screwed up. So let me tell you guys why. I really just looked at the chart after. So what I did, I went long to 492. I put up a risk around 487.50, I believe is the risk. I put up way too much risk. Given what's above us, I put up way too much risk to take that trade. So I'm in trouble on Netflix, and don't ever do that, guys. Always, always, always keep an attention. Keep your eye on what you're risking relative to what you're looking to get on this trade. Netflix, I just kind of briefly looked at it. I'm like, oh, that looks like a good trade. I stepped in. I put the order in. It's one of those expensive stocks, so I'm taking less shares, but at the same time, it is a major screw up on my part. But at the same time, the other two trades, their losses are losses. It is what it is, but that's one trade that I am not happy about, the fact that I actually took that trade. So that's in trouble. And we'll just manage the rest of them out there. And Facebook, I'm actually going to dump this one. That one didn't play out either. This is not the way I wanted to start the day, but hey, it is what it is, and some days are going to be like this, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and look, it's all about talking winners and losers. When things slow down, I will tell you guys of quite possibly a dumber mistake that I made. I literally make this mistake once or twice a year, so tune in for that when it does come. It's a bit of a muted trade, but it's literally throwing away money what I did. I want to jump to back to this vibe at least a little bit. Anytime I see multiple halts to the upside and then a halt down, it gives you an opportunity for some consolidation. The only issue here is it's already back down to like almost penny stock status. So eyeballs not at this 105 for me, which normally that's a halt up price. It'll just bounce off 105. It'd be a one even break before I would jump into those shorts a little bit more heavily. So let's look to see if this one continues its volume. It could be a scalper's paradise once it calms down, but it's still in that stage where, you know, you could break out either direction, 105, 120, and you could have further halts. That's not the best time to be involved unless you are looking for that play, guys. So I would, caution you guys, if you're looking at that VIVE, just watch out for some of those halt plays. If you don't know how to trade them, you might want to stay away. I am now looking at SRNE. I know you guys saw that break to the upside. Yes, Rockets in the money, that's great. Not really doing too much in terms of breaking that 28 even. But I'm looking at Sorrento. If we were ever to get back above this sort of like 875 to 9 area, could be back on the break. But it's a little ways away from that. Let's keep that in our back pocket. Brendan, what do you got? We
had a decent move up on Blink yesterday. If you remember, Blink charging went from 680 here in the afternoon anyways, all the way up to 840. Sellers coming back in. 8 failed there. $8 even failed right at the open. We're down to 740 on BLNK. Decent volume, guys.
That was a good short for me in the last few days here. And I know it's sort of a mistake for me, I think, to get away from BLNK. But it's going to be hard for me not to have my eyes peeled on Vive right now. It is sort of in that range that I would prefer not to touch. And as I mentioned before, you can call it 105 to 120, but I would probably look at it all the way to $1. The penny break here is not a bad place. I usually like to at least take one shot at, especially given the fact that I had this 105 to 110 area for some possible cover. That was a pre-market top as well on VIVE. So I'm going to stick to that. That's going to be the only thing I'm looking at until we get some kind of trade outside of the range, guys. I do want to quickly jump you guys back to IBIO before I go to Brendan here. Reversal to the long. It's held up, at least so far, down around this 240 area. Longer consolidation could give me a reason to maybe pick some shares up in the 50 range to add. I don't like to aggressively add. I have my breakout shares only. At this point, I have a decent stop area that I like, but I'm not adding until we get a deeper consolidation. Otherwise, we'll let this run. You can see my targets up here. I have a couple of orders to get out in the low 70s. Next stop would be low to mid 80s, and then 3 even for the rest of my shares. That'd be all flat if it got to 3. Brendan, what do you got?
Another one that can give you a trade specifically around earnings. Children's Place down big time today, 21%. Trying to bounce off $18 right now. Huge volume behind this move as well. But Children's Place, obviously a retailer hurt by the pandemic. PLCE to the downside today, guys.
I'm kicking myself. I mean, yeah, Neo. The day I come in and say, yeah, we'll buy on the dip in Neo is the day that there's only the breakout trade. And this is going to happen to you sometimes. Ultimately, there was a good break on Neo yesterday, and that's where I made my money. And then today I come in with a different plan. That's going to cost me. And it is what it is, guys. You're looking at this 16 even area. And I did mention this one as sort of an upside, 1590, the previous high. If you took the break, this is where you might want to consider rolling it over. If it breaks this, it's about 1650. Next stop to the upside. I don't like breakouts at 90s. I think you wait for that 16 even to see what happens at that price. If it rolls back, I'm not going to be aggressively shorting it, but I would probably at least take some kind of a shot here if there's some trickiness around this 1590 area, and certainly watch that 1650 on the way back. We know Neo a lot of times. Thank you, Valeria, for the upgrade on the coffee there. I'm going to need it today. But I've seen this party before. The first trade you miss in Neo, and you don't necessarily want to get too greedy here because that was the best trade of the day, getting it in that first 25 to 30 minutes. And if that's true, a rollover failing at 16 could be a nice little scalp short. Like I mentioned, 1650, next resistance point to the upside on NIO.
Okay, so an update with SRNE. I know Neil was looking at the stock earlier. SRNE, I've got, I just stepped into a long above 850. Got the stop just underneath 8 even. It's about 50 cents. I think that this stock has a ton of potential. Given where the closest action I'm seeing is around 920, I think we can put up 50 cents, 50, 60 cents or so with the potential for a good 70 cents before we start to slow down. So I like that breakout. I'll sit in that one long, a nice 850 break. An update on the one position that I had, I mentioned I really liked the way it's set up, was the fact that AMGN actually started moving down and then took out the 246. I was a little concerned with the selling that we were seeing above 246. Looks like we went $1. We went about $1, so I haven't cashed out anything. It is sitting at 246.97 on the offer right now. And I'm moving this stop up to 246 now. So this trade is now break even with potential unrealized profit of about 90 cents or so. The reason I'm doing this is because this kind of a move is tremendously, it's going to support that long in a very good way. So I'm willing to step up here at 246. That's where we were seeing trouble when we were breaking through. If we ever come back down through there, I know there should be some support there. If we don't get that support, I'm okay walking away with this trade and scratching this trade away, as this trade is now moving past 247. So we're now $1 in the money on this stock, and at the same time, SRNE has checked or bounced off of that 850, went down to that 844, and now is starting to move through 860. So now that's 10 cents in the money. Guys, this is an $8 stock, so you're obviously going to take more shares compared to, say, something like Amgen, which is 246, right? So it's a relative in terms of strength and pricing. You're going to take more shares on this stock because it is cheaper, say, versus Netflix or an Amazon. Well, definitely not an Amazon. That's way outside my range. I don't trade that stock, that kind of thing. But like a Netflix or an Apple, those are expensive names. But this 850, yeah, definitely taking more shares there. Amgen is now $1.40 in the money, making up for some of those early hits that I took, including that big amount of stupidity that was on Netflix on my case. That one I'm not too happy about there. But everything else perfectly okay. But Netflix, that's not one I'm happy about. That's something I got to get better at doing, is being more analytical with these levels. I try to do my best, but sometimes when there's a lot on your screen, you kind of get flustered a little bit, and you just kind of say, oh, yeah, that's good enough. No, it's never good enough. You've got to be on point with those kind of levels. So, yes, the two trades that I really spent time looking at, they're really in the money. I took one big hit on Honeywell and Facebook, and then Netflix was just a complete disaster. That's just my bad is all I can say for that.
I'll say this much here, and I know everyone's looking at Workhorse, and I just jumped in front of the train on NEO in front of that 16, so this is why I don't like that 90, because I like to play this roll, and if 16 breaks, I will go long, but I like stepping in front for a scalp, and I pick up some shares here at like 94, and we'll look to see if I can get some out here in like the 84 to 85 range on NEO for a quick little 10-cent scalp. And again, you're risking 5 to 10 cents in a disaster scenario. I miss 16, maybe I lose 10 cents, but like 5 or 6 pennies you're risking as a active trader to make initially the first 10%. I'm taking a 10% win. I'll take some out in front of 70 and 75. I like 16 break, and I'll be all over it. But one thing to your point there, Arun, I try to avoid at this time of day between 9:30 and 10. I just can't look. I can see 20 setups. I can see 10 setups on some of these small cap names and 1 or 2 big runners. But if I get past like 5 or 6 positions and movers, it's impossible to manage. So I try to stay away from that. So that's why I can't look at Workhorse, because I just jumped into NEO and I like that one, and I have my eyeballs on Sorrento as well. But it's already 10 o'clock. Wow, that means that we need to jump over to Brendan at the big screen for Happening Now.
Hey guys, yeah, a couple of numbers just out economic-wise. New home sales for July, 13.9% increase versus 1.4% increase expected. So huge beat for new home sales in the U.S. in July. Consumer confidence as well, much lower than expected, 84.8 versus 92 or some crazy number like that. So big miss on the consumer confidence, new home sales higher than expected. Back to basically flat here as far as North American markets are concerned. S&P 500 still holding on to positive territory, but only just 0.06%. You can see the Dow already red, negative 0.12%. We have the NASDAQ back in negative territory as well, only just, so it's basically flat. The Russell's positive. Here in Toronto, the TSX back to break even, also to the downside. The BOVESPA down in Brazil, if you're joining us from Brazil, 0.15% in negative territory. Energy names moving around today. We have oil prices higher, so CPG here up 4%. Little teeny tiny stock in Toronto doing higher relative volume, lots of liquidity. If you like those kinds of stocks, have a look at that one. Banks also, big time strength in banks. Bank of Montreal here, BMO up 3%. Huge move from 78 up to 80.5. Bit of a pullback right now for BMO, but banks leading the way. And Canada Goose, nice look here as well, through 31 this morning up to 30.75. Look at the volume compared to yesterday. So higher relative volume already for Goose, an interlisted name as well. You can trade that one down in the U.S. Guys, back over to you.
Yeah, there goes Neo. This is why you got to scalp some profit out there. I do take some out at 84. Ends up being the bottom, and then 16 even does break. I reverse to the long end of the trade there. So overall, that short's going to work out to just a bit worse than flat as a trade for me. You need to extend this move a little bit further than a couple of pennies here, but it is worth noting on the daily chart. We are looking at like a 1640 area for next resistance. That's going to be the Neo's top from a few weeks ago. Let's see if we can't get there. I like to play this many ways. If you're scalping breakouts, the first thing I always look for is that 5-10 cent range to take some shares out. So you'll see me pepper this area probably a little bit here around like 8 to 12. And then before I hold the other half of the position for a bigger move up. It's worth noting Rocket, we did take some out for a 55 cent win. It's coming right back up towards that 29 area. If that breaks, I'm all done with that short trade. It's been a good one, but I did miss a lot of that party. I didn't want it in the pre-market. That was a bad call. But here we go, Neo to the upside. Can't get married to the trade. If you took the 1590 break, you probably still have a winner. You did have to suffer through that pullback. That's why I like the short in front first. Either way, Neo going to the upside now, hopefully get that 16 quarter sometime soon.
Yeah, for me, I'm just managing the two trades. Nothing else has popped up on my radar in terms of setups. So I've still got SRNE. That's about 15, 16 cents in the money. And AMGN is just kind of working its way, testing that area. I like this. The fact that it's actually willing to go up and come back down, test that area that was a problem on the way back when we initially took the break. So this helps me out in a big way. So I'm still sitting at 246. I have not cashed anything. It's 80 cents on the money, and we're just going to wait this one out. Brennan, what do you got?
NBAX, guys, this thing's a heart attack. Wow. Moving dollars at a time. We went all the way down to 98. We're back to 110. So a $10 move down, followed by a $10 move back to the upside. Crazy stock, NBAX, so far today, guys.
Get in there and sell, Mortimer, sell. Anyone knows where that's from, maybe throw that one in the chat there. And if you don't know where that quote is from, then you probably missed one of the all-time greatest movie scenes that's actually related to trading, believe it or not. But I'm dating myself with this one. Let's look at this pre-market low here, that 110 area. It's ridiculous that we're back here. There is probably a better resistance at 115. Those are the same two prices on Best Buy. But it's going to be hard for me to look at this move on NVAX. Look at what's basically been happening to the stock, breaking through finally the 50 period as well, and not think we want to be selling every single pop, or at least taking a shot at doing so. So for me, that's going to mean something in and around below this 110 area with a 110 stop. We may get a flush down to 108. Otherwise, if it gets into this 110 to 115 range, I'm fading that range with a high-end stop at 115. I can't predict where it would roll over, but maybe it's 13, maybe it's 14. I gotta try it at some point, risk a couple of dollars to make what I think could be all the way back to 100 at some point. NVAX once again under tremendous pressure. Could be SSR. It should be SSR because it was over 10% to the downside. So watch out. You can't hit that bid without first getting an uptick. I do want to jump back over to Neo just a quick bit. Look, yes, it's working. I already took some for that quick little scalp out, that 5 to 10 cent win. I will take a few more shares out here because this guy, 100,000 shares on the offer at 16.20. So I now have just under half my position to the long side here. I have about 35%, a third of it left. To see if we can't break through that quarter mark and then make a run at that 1640 that we pointed out in the daily chart. So this is why we scalp it to the south side trade. You got to be willing to take profits because you know the momentum's against you when you take that initial short. Breakout long working though. Brennan, what do you got?
Another one to look at here, guys. Orchard Therapeutics, ORTX, 28% on the day. They had a nice move yesterday, actually, from just over $4 all the way up to 5.5. We're up to 7 now. That was ahead of some clinical data that they were going to release this morning. Came out better than expected. So ORTX on the move, guys.
All right, Amgen is now kind of done its check inside of that 246 area, is now moving towards that 247. This is great news for me. This is now about $1.30 in the money. We're trying to make some money back here on this one. That's great. And SRNE is just kind of taking its time above that 250. It has gone as high as 20 cents in the money, or almost 20, 15, 16 cents in the money. It is now back to around 8.55, about 5 cents in the money or so. We'll let that one play itself out. The big one, Apple. Apple is now clearing that 496 area from yesterday. That's an area we were keeping an eye on. We have completely cleared it. Now we just took out the low. After it bounced off that area, what I'm going to do is I'm going to step in and take a short on Apple here around right there. around 495. I'm going to use that high, which is around 497.50. That's the trade I'm looking for. I'm looking for follow through on that break. The fact that we went through, bounced, and then went through again, that opens up the trade for me on the short side. And that is now immediately 37 cents in the money on Apple. Guys, the thing with trades is you got to know how, or not know, but you got to kind of feel out how you're taking profit. Of course, the way I take profit, I kind of let things ride a little bit longer than most people do. So if you're rushing to take profit, lock in some money. You don't have to do what I'm doing. I kind of let things ride, and sometimes they come all the way back, and I'm perfectly okay with that. But everyone takes profits differently. Everyone takes trades differently. So just understand that following completely does not work. Following what we're doing completely does not work. It's not going to work because you don't understand what we're doing. So, you don't understand exactly what our thought process is. So the thing is, see what we're talking about, take the trade if you want to, and then take profit how you see fit based on your strategy, right? So that is now, Apple is now 50 cents in the money, Amgen is $1.20 in the money, and SRNE 6 cents out. We're going to let these just work itself out, and Apple is the big trade that I have high hopes for just because of what we did around that 495, 496 area, the fact that we bounced and then kind of took it again a second time around. That is now $1.25 in the money and moving fast, so we'll just let this one go. In the meantime, while these are playing out, I'm going to kind of switch over to futures here just to give you guys a quick update and see what's going on there. If I can actually get the chart up and running.
I want to do one quick thing because I saw a couple of people, or at least one person, ask about this on the charts, and I want to clarify this every chance we get. If you see purple arrows in the chart, those are short sell indications. Red, those are down arrows. Those are also sells, but that means covering a long position. Unfortunately, there is no way to distinguish between covering a short in green up arrow and just buying into a long. So the way you look at it is, look, if you see this down here, this green arrow on NEO, that's me covering a short. Obviously, if I have sell orders here, it means I did have to have reversed to the long position to that at that 1603. NEO's coming back in. I think I almost have to consider that if it consolidates in front of that 85, which was the bottom on that short that I had, if it does give you consolidation at that price, yeah, I'm likely to see if we can't dip into this one more time and add to my position long. I'm not there yet, so I'm not going to go ahead and do it, but it's definitely in the back of my mind, guys, that I could want to add to that position to the long side trade on NIO. I do also want to jump very quickly back to IBIO. I know a lot of you are looking at this name, and I did have an initial short that lost. I rolled into the long. I did miss an opportunity to pick some more shares back up. It didn't give me a long enough consolidation, so I didn't want to add to risk too aggressively here if it was going to break that 240. However, it is starting to creep back up towards that 270 high. I still have some orders out there if you see that yellow line or gold line, whatever you want to call it. If it breaks that 270, I will get some out to the upside. So IBIO trying to get back up, but not quite yet. And Rocket starting to go sideways on me. It stopped me out at 29 and then came right back down. So might have got out of that one a little bit too fast.
Okay, so a couple things I'm going to do. I've already taken some profit on Amgen. It's starting to slow down in front of that 247.50. Not all of it. I've only taken out half. That's what I tend to do. I take out half of it. Once I start to see it slow down, then I will start to take profit on this. And then the other one with Apple, I'm also this is a 5-minute chart. I zoomed out quite a bit to see where the action is. It seems like there's a lot of action coming down to 93.50 or so. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to lock in some profit in front of 93.50, 493.50. And in the meantime, while I'm banking some profit, there we got some out there. We're just going to do upgrades and downgrades.
Hey guys, yeah, we'll get you a few more symbols to have a look at so far this morning. This is the first one. We'll shift back over to, if I can here. I missed the board. There, that's not it either. NEO was an upgrade today. UBS, guys, this is a mess. NEO was upgraded by UBS. We were talking about it in the pre-market. A nice look so far for NEO, just straight higher. Right out of the gate, $15 was support right off the bat. So broke that pre-market high, as we said. Really hasn't been against you the entire time, all the way up to $15.90. Watch 16, a bit of a pivot. If you come back out to the daily time frame, we're getting up into these all-time high kind of area for NIO. The other one, this one, NPTN, Neo Photonics was the other one. Not related whatsoever, but Neo Photonics with a downgrade today, 2.73% monster print at the open here on the sell side. This thing very thinly traded normally, but watch $7 here was a bit of a support area yesterday for NPTN in New York. Guys, back to you.
Okay. Completely unrelated. I just saw this in the chat. Someone said Arun needs to take over Hydration Nation while Sean is gone. I want to point out something. I was already a part of it well before Sean even decided to start it. So this is my water bottle that I have been drinking for years. So everyone who wants to drink water with me, absolutely. Hydration Nation is always going. Sean, if he's taking a break, I'm there to cover for him. No worries. Apple.
Hold on a second, Arun. I can't let this one go here,
What's
but
up?
all I'm going to say is this. You can still drink a heck of a lot of water, and I hydrate myself as well, without needing to show off with a gigantic water bottle. I find that it's perfectly okay to drink out of a nice little Trader TV bottle there, but I'm not going to make any comments about why or why not you might need to have a bigger water bottle. That's to each their own. I'm just going to quickly point out I did have some orders there on an IBIO. It's starting to take out. It took out that 270 level we talked about. Some there at 73 and 74. I was able to get some shares out there. If it breaks 75, next stop we low to mid 80s, and then the $3 price target we have on that. So I still have IBIO here, just over half of my position on that long break after having an initial short that didn't work. But you can go back to Apple there, Arun.
Yeah, it's interesting. He talks about drinking water, but I never see him get up to fill that bottle, interestingly enough.
This is my third one already. This
Okay. I've seen you get up 0 times since we started, so just saying. Anyways, going back to Apple, we're done talking about water. Apple, I've cashed them out in front of 493.50. That was an area I mentioned to you guys. When I zoomed out on the 5-minute chart, went across multiple days here, I'm seeing a lot of interest in that 493.50, 493 even area. So I've cashed them out. The rest of it is going to ride itself out. 498 is going to be the rest, the remaining trail on this trade. It is going to cost me about $2.50. That's perfectly fine. We'll let that one play out. And of course, Amgen, I took some out in front of 247.50, half of it out. It is backing off, so that's an interesting area to keep an eye on. Now we seem to be stuck between 247.50 and 246 even. So if 246 even breaks, I'll just kind of scratch the second half of this trade. 247.50, of course, we've already made $1.50 on the first half. And SRNE's kind of just gone sideways. The thing with the charts here is, look, when I actually look at reads, I do 60-minute charts, and then I go to the 5 minutes to manage it. And we are going to go to Valeria.
Thank you, everyone, and hello, trading family. I hope you're having a great day. If you joined us for the first time, please hit the subscribe and catch us live every day. Also, please help more people to find out about our beautiful community. Share the link with friends and post it on social media. Break the like button, and I'll see you on the chat. Back to traders.
Did you say break the like button? Why not? Look, I just want to jump to a couple of names here. And, we talk about why you want to watch the watch list. And, NEO, there was a couple of things. We covered this one off at the open. And I may not have taken the trade to the long break, and I should have had it. But we did talk about the long break and the initial 1590 target. That's where I started the rollover short. It did go 50-50 for me, taking a bit of a win here and then losing on the rest. The breakout is approaching that 25. And I look at that sort of lower high it's trying to put in. And I will take a few more shares off. And if you're scalping, that's one of the things I will do. If I get that break of 25, then I think our target of 1640 should come into play. I also want to jump us back over to IBIO, which again was a name on our watch list. And I talked about why I like the 260 a little bit better than the 255. It is starting to come back in. I took some scalp profit, as I mentioned to you guys, in the 70 range. If it can hold this 45 to 50, I might take a bounce play here and go long one more time. But I believe, Brendan, we have you again?
We have a couple of names, guys, we talked about being added to the Dow coming up on Monday. This is one of the ones coming off. Raytheon Technologies, RTX, down 2.25% on that news this morning. Watch $60 here. If it gets below $60, could be in trouble on the daily chart. That's a big time level. 56 would be next for RTX, guys.
Okay, I appreciate the super chat, STFU, but I was literally the opposite of throwing down the gauntlet. I would never challenge Arun to an arm wrestle. Why? Because then I would break my arm and then I couldn't trade. So let's be realistic about things here. We can figure out a different challenge because I actually like to be able to trade every single day. And until we get a robot to do it for me, I don't need any arm breaks. There is someone in this floor that I think could give Arun a run at his money. I'm not going to call anyone out on that one, but it's certainly not going to be me. I do want to jump back over to this Vive. It did break that range that we're talking about, that 120 to 105, not to the downside where I could short it, but it's starting to creep back up. And if we get a top end break here on VIVE, it does feel like if I was a shorter, that would break my back. So certainly, I think there's a potential squeeze through the high of the day here. If it does test it and roll, that's the only other way I would get into a short. It's either going to be a $1 break, or it's going to be testing 145, failing to get through, and I would jump into the south side trade. But if 145 goes, baby, we got to go long on that one. I think there's going to be a potential squeeze on VIVE. as it approaches 100 million shares on the day. Seems like there's one of these a day.
Yeah, a quick update here. I just stepped into a BABA position. I had just gotten this BABA position. It's already $1 in the money, so this is kind of crazy. The 280 break, you can see here, we spent a lot of time in the pre-market working 280s. When we broke 280, I stepped in long. I was working at range actually between 280 and 257, 275, 70. I talked about this earlier, but I actually only talked about the downside, never talked about the upside. 280 was the top end of that. So if we broke 280, I was going to step in and put 279 as a stop. I'm only risking $1. I'm actually in 1-for-1 already. Risk reward ratios are already good, but I'm actually letting this one go and let it play itself out. We took 281. I'm okay risking $1 and see how this plays out. This has a ton of potential, so I'm just going to leave this one until it slows down, and then I'll start taking some profit here. And on the other flip side here, Amgen is starting to really hesitate in front of that 247. If it starts to stay like this, I'm going to cut this trade and run. This might be this area might be part of this area. So I don't need to wait to see this. I can just walk away from this and walk away with a 60, 70 cent winner. Perfectly fine with that. I've already made $1.20 something and change on the first half, so we're okay with that. And Apple is actually backing off now about just above 495. Again, 498 is the stop on that. So we've already cashed out half down towards 493.50. So we'll let this one play itself out. That's okay. And SRNE is doing absolutely nothing. So 4 trades. BABA is completely going off the rails at the moment. $1.50 in the money, and I just gotten it not too long ago. So that's a nice ride. And the other one, I'm close to getting out, Amgen. That's something to keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, and there goes Neo. I'm going to slap shot action this one. My team our team might not be in the playoffs still, but hockey does reign on. I think basketball is doing a fantastic job as well. Raptors are going to win it all, potentially. I got 1640 out, and we talked about it on the daily chart there. There's sort of that all-time top on that 1640 to 50 area. Could run into resistance. I like that breakout. Through that 16, we did take it. It gave you a pullback, not quite deep enough for me. So my last shares are going to be out for that sort of 25 to 35 cent win target. Now, here's the thing, and I got to be honest here. As I'm sort of in the moment reviewing this, I did mention the breakout price through the top at 1530 at 9 o'clock in our little pre-show, and then talked about a target at 1590, although I can't actually come up with a solid reason why I said I didn't want to do it and preferred the dip buy. I'm going to go back and try to figure out why it was I had in my head that I was looking for a 1470 dip instead of being willing to take the breakout, which I did yesterday on Neo. Thankfully, we were able to still make some money on it, but man, I could have at least done a heck of a lot better with that long trade if I had started it here at 1530 and then had at least 2 or 3 shots to the upside trade instead of the one and done on the top end. So a win's a win, but got to do a little bit better there. It was the same setup as yesterday, and we could have had it twice. Instead, just once. But tune in, guys. We did mention the level to you, so I hope somebody got that. That 1530 was just easily, in my opinion, maybe the best trade of the day. It's 10:20 already. Wow, time is flying here. We need to get to Brendan at the big screen for the small cap recap.
Hey guys, yeah, small cap time. Let's have a look at a few things we were talking about in the pre-market. If you joined us between 9 and 9:30, this one was on the watch list, guys. Sign up for the watch list. You can follow along between 9 and 9:30. If you rewind the clock back to about 9:25, I talked about 850 on OVID. 850, any kind of push into 850 would be a point where I would look to sell. But this consolidation presented itself right before the open. Too hard to resist. You could use $8, so really, really tight risk there. 20-30 cents to $8 gave you a $2 move to the downside. We're now at $6. This is 8 up here for OVID, so a great opportunity on Ovid. Givo, the other one, 165 on the daily chart, very obvious level. So I was getting into this one in front of 165. We're back to 140. There's a buyer, it seems, around 140, though, taking a lot of shares. So working out of GEVO. There was one more that I wanted to show you. Yeah, you won. The big one this morning, 650, 660. A little bit of a shelf here just before the open as well, gave you an opportunity to get involved versus that 650, 660. We're now at 450 for U1, so huge move obviously to the downside. No news on this thing still that I can see. Guys, back over to you.
Quick update here, guys. Amgen have completely closed the position out in front of 247. That trade's done. It's starting to slow down. I don't like it. This might be a part of that 246 area, given how much action is there. So we're going to walk away from that. Walk away with at least a dollar and change, actually, on average. And where's the other one? BABA. BABA, I've also closed out some of BABA, too. At a risk-reward ratio, it seems to slow down around that 81.50, 281.50. So I just got out some in front of 281. So that's a dollar in the money as well. And it's still carrying 50 cents on the second half of this, but that's perfectly fine. I'm okay walking away on the first half with the dollar. That's 1-to-1 risk-reward ratio, and the rest of it, we ride it out, right? Even if I take a loss in the second half, I make absolutely zero. It costs me nothing to stay into this trade at this point, so it is house money at this point, even if I take the hit on the second half. That averages out, and now, of course, Apple has turned around. It looks like there's a nice little downtrend in Apple happening. Of course, we are past that date of the record that was yesterday. It makes sense for this market to start kind of slide out. If the interest in Apple was based entirely on that, then looks like we may have lost momentum on the upside. That may be a reason why a lot of these stocks that are, on record dates kind of fall apart afterwards. But yeah, Apple is now $1 in the money. We're going to leave that alone. Amgen, I'm going to change the screen. I don't need to pay attention to this anymore. We're walking away from this. SRNE, I've still got that. That's about, 20 cents out of the money at the moment. So we're okay. We're putting up 50 cents on SRNE. The stop is down here, just underneath 8 even. This is a nice little setup here. I've got the 5-minute chart up right now, but the actual setup it was based entirely on the 60-minute chart. I like the fact that we kind of cleared the 850 and opened the potential for a move up towards 920, 910, 915, 920. So I'm okay with taking that shot there. We're going to put up 50 cents. We'll just hold on to that. But yeah, the other two, we got Apple and BABA. $1.50 on Apple and $1 on BABA, and SRN is doing a little bit of nothing or sliding back a little bit. And hey, timing was great on Amgen. It looks like this is a nice little move. The fact that we're actually coming back to 246, I'm starting to wonder if, given that we were seeing selling here, selling here on the way up, and then I thought we checked enough to actually run it, and then we saw more selling here, this zone might be huge. So that's something to keep an eye on going forward. Brendan, what do you got?
It seems like there's one of these every single day, guys. This VIVE, we talked about it right out of the gate this morning. It was halted a couple of times, just surpassed, or not just, but 107 million shares on the day so far for VIVE, guys.
Actually, I was just about to type in the chat, but I'll just tell you guys right here. I mean, NVAX, I am looking at this. It finally got into that 110 sort of range. It did stall out here, just right before it got into that 112 to 114 chop from the pre-market, where it really actually rolled over. Look, I'm gonna take a shot at the short at some point. It's either whether we wait for a bit of a breakdown or I get a higher consolidation. It's gonna sort of remain to be seen. It's not a horrible play here, just looking at what that 112 was in the last maybe 30 minutes before the open, sort of holding that price when it broke down, then you get the big time flush. So that's not a horrible level to work off of. I still think that 115 is probably a little bit better of a level on NVAX, but I might take one shot in front of 112 and then save some bullets for the 112, or so the 115 area to the upside as well. So if I can catch this one in like $1.50 to $2 worth of risk is an average price, and then the second trade we give it maybe a little bit more. I still think VWAP's down here at 06. You do have this little bounce play here at 104. Plenty of room to the downside in NVAX that we can take advantage of. IBIO starting to come back in. Could be another bounce off 260. My price is sitting here 258.5. I'm not going break-even stop. I'll probably give it to that 250 to 255 mark before I get out of that trade. It's been a good breakout, but it never got past that 280 mark, which was our target for the final third of the position. I'll give it one more shot, possibly adding in front of 50 to see if it can actually get to that $3 mark and bust that 280. But I'm now looking at NVAX. I'll take one shot at it first, but I want to have room in the quiver here to take some in front of that 115. I don't want to spend every single bullet on NVAX in this price range.
Okay, just a quick update on the futures, guys. I haven't done this in a minute, actually. 34.25, that's an area we're keeping an eye on. They seem to be staying around 34.30, but they are actually starting to move past it now. 34.25, I'm expecting a lot of support here between 34.25. Starting at 34.30, 34.25 was preferable. I know there's going to be some interest going down towards 34.20 as well. So anywhere in this zone between 34.30 and 34.20, I'm looking for some sort of a buy-side setup so I can actually step in and go long here. So this doesn't mean I'm going to. I'm waiting for the right setup. Right now, at the moment, it seems like they're hesitating to go up past that 34.30. So if we can get up into that 34.33 area, I think there's potential for a base. If not, they might still have some sell side pressure here and actually push this much further down before we actually set up. And the flip side is if they actually have enough strength to push it through, down through 34.10, there's a real possibility of a nice little short here. It's going to be a quick 10-point ride down to 3,400 before you actually catch some action here. So just be aware, if you decide to take that 34.10 break, the risk reward has to be proper because you can only really expect 10 points before you run into some support. So in the meantime, I'm still managing. While I'm waiting for the futures to decide what to do, Apple is now starting to move back past that one, 493.50. That's $1.50 in the money. Great. BABA is backing off that 91.5. Good thing I took some profit at that 1-to-1. We're still waiting at 279. I like the setup. The reason I took it, I mentioned to you guys earlier, it was a nice little setup. We spent pre-market going through 280. So I'm going to give it a chance. The first half, I've already cashed out. The second half, I'll give it a chance to actually take a run. Of course, if the market starts to slide more aggressively, you can expect BABA to actually start moving down with the market. So that's one of those things, and SRNE is not cooperating at all. That's just continuing to kind of fall off. We're going to let this one, leave this one alone. We've already made the setup on this. It's a long-term setup. This is a 16-minute chart. I like the setup. We'll leave it as is. We'll let it do what it wants to do, and then come back to it when it's done or hasn't cooperated. Whatever it decides to do, we'll just leave it be. And I'm still looking for more trades. For now, I'm carrying that.
When you talk about leaving things on, I think that's one thing you got to be attentive to, the style of trade. We do a lot of scalping here. You might see in and out of positions in seconds or minutes, and there's other trades here. And I'll just sort of put up our NWK. I have my 10 up here, which I don't usually use, for a stock. Let's jump to the 3-minute chart so you can see it here. Look. I got this nice rollover short at 150, and we did talk about this. I had it in the pre-market, and I'll take some initially off when it tests the pre-market low. But as long as it wants to make a hold at this little bottom, ultimate target is the previous day's close. I'll let this one slide to the downside all day long if it has to get to my target, even considering reloads in front of 150, knowing that this trade I could have on the entirety of the show or the entirety of the day, as long as it holds a downtrend. I think you got to be willing to do that for some of these plays. RNWK, you might not see me talk about it as much, but I am sitting in the short position in the money for a reason. Brendan, what do you got for us?
Recent highs here for Gap today, guys. GPS up 8.5%. You can see on the daily chart, broke through 16, was a bit of a pivot. So we're up to 1680 for Gap. Citigroup raising to a buy today with a $24 price target for GPS, guys.
Okay, back to Apple, guys. The way I'm going to manage Apple, because this could get a little complicated on profit taking. I've already took some profit because going back a couple days, this is a 5-minute chart. I'm going to zoom that out and get multiple days worth of action in here. You see going into this area here on the 21st, we see a lot of activity towards that 93.50, 493.50. So that's why I took some profit there. Now, the way we know there's more action here, going through 493.50 all the way down to 488. That's a huge range, about $5 worth of range. The way I'm going to let this one go, if it keeps going up, I'm just going to keep trailing it based on the activity. The last point it bounced. So I know it bounced around that 493.50. I know we're inside of a hot zone here. We could bounce at any moment. So I'm going to have to try and protect this as much as I can because this could turn very quickly if it decides to. So 494 even is now the trailing stop on Apple. I'll lock in $1. I locked in $1.50 already. I'll lock in $1 on the second half. We'll average out $1.25 and let that one play out. And of course, BABA is now actually, where's BABA? Here we go. BABA is bouncing off that 480. It tried to get through that for 280 half or so. It is messing around. I am a little concerned with that 281.50, but I like the setup, so we'll let that one play out. Again, I've already cashed out. I've made my risk on the trade, so if I end up taking a hit on the second half of these trades, I'm still walking away flat or slightly positive, so that's okay. Sometimes those are the kind of trades that need to happen, or the way that the management of those trades need to happen. The big one I'm kind of trying to figure out still what to do with is Amgen. The fact that we are working that 246 and then we started working that 247.50. It seems like there's a little, not a little bit, there's a lot of action on the sell side here. This might actually turn. The fact that we actually moved down, took out the top, then kind of hesitated here and then decided to go higher and then hesitated again, all within $1.50 range, tells me that the activity around this zone is hot. That is something to watch. Keep an eye on that. If there's a setup at some point later in the day, go ahead and take that trade. But definitely keep an eye on that one there. Brandon, what do you got?
I'm not seeing any news on this one, guys, but SPAC, the actual SPAQ, just getting a little volume coming in here. 1350, big area from yesterday afternoon, but buyers stepping up on SPAQ. That SHLL still going as well on that news. They're launching a second SPAC for SHLL. Guys.
Everybody gets a SPAC. I do want to jump back up to Rocket, our Rocket Mortgage here. It did make a bit of a stop out for me. We did have that nice short on, and then it does break that 29, like I mentioned. It's starting to roll over here. And you talk about sort of that relationship, Arun, of having flat trades or slightly positive trades, and it's got to be in there. Yes, this would have been fantastic, and obviously the secondary rollover would have hit all of our targets. But if I don't take that out, and this is a trend reversal, I might be losing all the way closer to that 30, and it turns into a significant negative trade, which started out as a winner. I like Rocket here if we can make a lower high, sort of higher low off this 27 first initial bottom. So if we can hold that, there might be an opportunity for a long. I'm not really going to be jumping into a long position on Rocket Mortgage yet. It was a read short that we had mixed results on, like I just mentioned. But I do want to get us back and just update you on what NVAX has been doing. It's still trying to give you a little bit of consolidation in here. I did jump into that short off of 112, and I still like the play off of 115 if at some point it does want to test this top end area from the pre-market. But if we get a roll into VWAP at this point, it's going to be fantastic for like a $1.50 type win on some of it, maybe looking like $3 on the rest. To update you guys on IBIO, I did take that bounce play off of VWAP here just in front of that 255, so I picked some up at 57.58. I will take some off around that sort of 270 mark that we had some resistance before. Ultimately, I still like the chance to take a top, give me some 80s, make a push to that $3 mark, which I think could be coming up here. And yeah, I'm in the money like 70, 80 cents on NVAX, but I need over $1 for the first half of it before I start taking it off here. It's all about risk reward. It's all relative here. NVAX moves $10, $15, $20 at a time. So even on like a shorter duration trade, I still want to make sure I'm in that $1 to $3 target range for a profitable trade on NVAX. One last one to get to. Brennan keeps mentioning gap, and I keep sort of staying away from this one. For me, we want to go to the higher time frame here to see you are getting that breakout already. It's starting to get very close to this rollover point, which was at 17. On the way back down, very significant level. There is chop for a couple of dollars in 17 to 19, but I think 17 could provide some resistance. It will certainly broken support if you want to go all the way back into February when this whole mess started, guys.
Okay, guys, I haven't found any new trades, but you know what? BABA has turned around now. It's starting to turn off that 280 level again. I was concerned about this 281 level. It is now turning around. This will be interesting to see what happens here. Brendan, what do you got?
Another one, guys, utility name here, VVPR, Vivo Power, with earnings aftermarket yesterday. Nice move back to the upside here after a gap down this morning. So trying to retake $4 even. You can see the volume coming back in through that 4 even big time level for VVPR, guys.
Okay.
VVPR. It just reminded me of Vive, and I was sort of I've been avoiding this one a little bit. I think I have only 2 orders that I'm looking at. It's a top end break. I'm going to reiterate that 145, but I'm still looking to short this one through the bottom, 105 to 1 even. It did just give you a little bit of a flush. So it's trying to break back to the downside and break some of these longs. It's a 50-cent stock yesterday, so there's still lots of room to go down if it indeed is going to be a sell-off. I just want to make sure that we don't get too far away from this name. It should be a good one at some point. I just haven't had an entry. And it's a similar thing that's happened for me in Sorrento, although it is starting to come in. So if you wait for the sellers to jump, they have come and it's managed to hold this 8 even area, at least somewhat decently here. And the story for me has been it's breaking that 50 period. I want to be jumping into the sell side trade here if it holds. What's been like an 875 top, I've been looking at 9 even as well. But now that it's put it in shy of that 9, I think you can start to give some credence to that 875, maybe use that as a base of operations if you want to be jumping into the short trend, which has been ongoing in Sorrento, but might be picking up some steam here. Just noting IBIO pulling back into that VWAP. I am going to move my stop up just a little bit from 50, likely to that 55 range. Again, I don't want to have a big hit if IBIO starts to sell off deeply.
Okay, so a couple updates. I've closed out the Apple position. I don't need to see this much bouncing in the area that I know is already a problem. So I've already cashed out just in front of it. The order slipped a little bit, so I ended up getting a horrible price, actually, $494.45. Okay, that's not good. But anyways, that's a 55 cents winner, it looks like. So that's fine. It is what it is. But I'm out of that position there, and Baba is still running. So we're going to manage this one out. Brandon, what do you got?
Another one moving yesterday, guys, on the plasma treatment news. SONN to the downside today. So big move up, if you remember yesterday, all the way up to 550 in the pre-market. We're back down to 3 here, trying to bounce off 3. But watch this 325 and then 340 was a problem right off the bat for SONN 18%, guys, to the downside.
All right, BABA is now $2.13 in the money, and we got to figure out how to protect some of this. So what I'm going to do is I like the fact that we actually bounced off that 81.50. We went down, and then now we took out the 282s. How do you manage this? Okay, we know the market hesitated around that 281.50. I don't need to give it that dollar all the way down to 279. I need to lock in some profit, because if we come back through that 281.50, then I know that this is starting to kind of fade a little bit in this area. The zone is a little bit bigger on the sell side than I thought. So that means 281.20 is going to be my new stop, my trailing stop, as this is now $2.19 in the money. We're going to let this one play itself out, but 281.20 is a new trailing stop on that. And of course, SRNEs back to 835, 834 and a half. Now, again, 830, we got just above 50. This is okay. This is 15 cents out, but it is meant to take a while. This is not one of those high flyers and fast movers, so we're going to let this one play itself out. This is going to take some time. Apple, however, is a fast mover, so expect a quick run on Apple. Remember, the zone that I was concerned about, and that's why I was starting to take profit in this area, is this zone here between that line and that line. It's about 488. So this is a hot zone with a ton of activity. You know there's going to be some movement on this stock as we enter this zone. So of course, if I'm short here, I'm looking for the expectation of that short below 496 when I got at 495 was the fact that we would go through this zone very quickly. The fact that we did not go through this zone very quickly tells me that this is still holding on fairly strong. So I'm going to move out of the way in the event that they decide that there's enough activity here to buy this market out. Remember, the timing of the market as well. The futures were this in the same area I was concerned about, 425 going after 420. So the futures are in a hot zone on the buy side, and Apple we knew was coming into this hot zone as well. If Apple starts to turn around, I'm out of the way because the futures might go as well. So we're going to move there, close that position out, and we're going to focus on BABA because we're in the right direction with the futures on this side. So 281.20 is a trailing stop. Let this one play itself out. Let it be patient, and in the meantime, I'm going to start looking for more trades. And we are going to go to Sector Watch in the meantime.
Yeah, a bit of a mixed bag so far for the S&P, guys. We'll have a look at the overall market and see what is leading. We are dead flat, negative 0.01% for the overall market. You can see very colorful board, though, with lots of individual names offsetting weakness, lots of individual weakness as well. We'll flip over and start over here. Consumer discretionary stocks, we talked about Gap on the upgrade today, up 7%. Best Buy right below it on earnings, down 5%. So kind of canceling each other out. L Brands here having a nice day, up 2%. Tiffany there, down 3% on a downgrade as well. So again, everything kind of offsetting each other. Some of the cruise lines in negative territory as well. I noted CCL, but RCL back to break even. There's Norwegian as well. NCLH down a full percent. The hotels are here as well. Marriott, LVS. We saw big time strength coming out of those names yesterday, not so much today. Starbucks, though, nice look, 2.4%. HON and the industrials here leading the way, 3.5%. RTX, Boeing, there's Boeing, 2.3%. HWM, all about 2% to the downside. So this group is negative. Deere, we saw a nice move. There it is, Deere, 1.6%. We saw a nice move yesterday following an upgrade on Deere. There's the airlines here, UAL, AAL, and Love, all in negative territory. FDX as well, FedEx, 1.2% to the downside. Some positivity on the virus news yesterday, back to the downside today. So materials are negative. Utility stocks also negative. Real estate stocks as well. And this group here, energy, back to the downside as well, led by XOM, 2.7%, and PSX, 3% negative, 0.4%. Guys, back over to you.
Thanks a lot, Brendan. Someone said hit more buttons, Neil. I'll hit the fireworks action. We'll talk about NVAX just a little bit here. It did make that little slight break to the downside, but I had a target just on the south side of 109 before I saw a buyer stuff up here that has been holding this level for quite some time. So I'm not going to sort of quibble over 10, 15 cents. I did take it out for what amounts to just over $1 win on the first little bit. If we break through this 109 area, I'm still going to hold my target in front of that little VWAP action and tighten things up. I'll throw my stop from 112 to 110.50 in the event that buyer holds. I still like the opportunity if it breaks through that 112 to take another shot short in front of 115. That's one of the reasons why I'm willing to adjust my targets on that name. I gave the reasons why I actually took off my NEO trade. And maybe, just maybe we should have been back in that 16. All-time highs here on NEO. It does seem like there's no stopping this one today, guys. NEO up 11% now. I've managed to make some money on it. I did mention, of course, I do have to revisit why I didn't initially like that breakout trade despite giving both an entry and a target. I should have had that trade to the long side for you guys, at least to be able to show you. I do want to quickly jump back over to one from yesterday. Oh, sorry, actually this morning. SGLB here. Making a bit of a hard bottom. This is one of those gap up plays. It went over 300% to the upside before selling off heavily. It's trying to make a bottom here at 350, and you are seeing it hold, a couple of times, then trying to break through this $4 mark. I would be looking to see if I can't get a secondary push, maybe shake some people out that might be getting overconfident with the short. The volume's fantastic. It's still doing, a few million shares, every 15, 20 minutes or so, but it is tapering off. I'd look for a 350 stop. If you can go short, I would at least think about scalping it, but it's very, very expensive to do that. For us, it was like 30 cents. Otherwise, it's like a 420-ish break to give you something into the 5 even mark. And you got to hold this one at least to like 380 if you do take the long. Otherwise, you just play long in front of that 350 altogether. Maybe grab a 360 with a tight stop and see if you can't get a 5-to-1 win-loss ratio on that one. Did you hit that, the Brendan Goat? Over there?
Not, no.
Yeah, well, we're in the money $2 on NVAX, but I'm not taking it just yet. I want close to $3 on that winner. Valeria hit the Brendan Goat. So I want a little bit more on this NVAX. Yeah, we're deep in the money, but I want to see a bigger win on that name. But I am watching SGLB to see if we can't bottom pick in front of 350 at some point today, guys.
Okay, so just a quick update here on BABA, guys. BABA is now $3.25 in the money. I'm still leaving the trailing stop at 281. The reason I'm leaving it here, the activity was so hard and fast all the way up through 284 that I really have nowhere to see how it bounced, right? But where I would put the trailing stop is where it last bounced. If I'm going to run this, we initially got in with a 60-minute chart. I like that breakout. Now I got to manage it. I'm managing with the 5, but the 5 is just going straight up. So I'm looking for areas where it's bouncing last, where I know there was some sell attempts. That's where I'm going to run the trailing stop. So it just happens to be 281.20 is where the trailing stop is. Of course, I am a little scared of this massive tail through 284 at the moment. This is not good because this could be potential a blow off top here because that could just absolutely turn around. We'll see how this one closes out. But it's not going to be, it looks like it may have run its course, but it is starting to slow down. If I start to see more of this inside of this 284 or around this 284 area, I will have to cash out. But hey, you know what? We locked in $1 and we're sitting on another $3.40 at the moment. So we're going to let this one play itself out. 281.20 is the trailing stop there. And also SRNE got a whole lot of nothing. But since everybody wants to press buttons, I'm going to go ahead and press one of Sean's buttons here. And let me know what you guys think here. Did I press a button? I don't know. Oh, there we go. I pressed one of Brendan's cowboy buttons just to get some excitement going on there.
You have chosen wisely, Arun. I love that one because it didn't even get a chuckle out of Brendan. Like he's always serious and hard at work there. I do want to quickly jump back to Vive just so I haven't gone short yet, but it did make a bit of a test of that 105, that first level that we talked about. So 105 and 1 even are the two places you want to look at. I'm going to have to go ahead and slide my stop again on NVAX to an in the money stop. It just cracked 108, so we are in the money over $2 on that trade. We're entering that target range in front of VWAP to get out. I don't want to give away too much of that profit. We'll lock in at least $1 regardless of what happens here. If it cracks back above like 109 and change, I would get out. But Vive testing that 105 bottom, so it's still in that sort of halt range initially to the upside, which is at that 105, but if it breaks it, we'll start our shorts. Brendan, what do you got?
Another one with a nice move yesterday, guys, in the electric vehicle space. Li Auto back to the upside 2 days in a row here, 8.25% up there. Huge move for Li Auto 2 days in a row. If I zoom out here, you can see we gapped up yesterday, held that gap for the entire day, gapping up further today. Back to almost $19 here for Li Auto, guys.
Okay. Completely unrelated to trading here, we're going to do a little fruit salad time session with me. Problem is, I was planning on doing it, but I ate it all. Sorry, guys. There wasn't a whole lot in there. I mean, to be honest, it was the same stuff as yesterday. There was a lot of watermelon, less pineapple, and a whole lot of apples. I am not an apple person. I still ate it, though. I was hungry, but apples, not a fan of them. But hopefully tomorrow we get a little change up because that melon, watermelon, grape combo is starting to get a little tiring, and it's only 2 days in. So, oh, and those berries that Neil was like, oh, leave them for me, leave them for me. Well, I left it for him. They're still there. He hasn't eaten any of them, so I'm expecting a lot there,
My
Neil.
bowl is at my desk. But first of all, I literally went on like a, I don't know, 2, 3, I don't know how long the rant was talking about your discipline, giving the story of how disciplined a trader you are. And then Arun lacking the discipline to not eat all of the fruit salad before doing the segment. I think that's, you know, I actually said this, like, when people talk about, oh, I have a great work ethic and I'm not lazy, this kind of thing, everybody is lazy at something. It's just a matter of where you have that energy, you know, where you are very disciplined, where you are sort of very, very dedicated. So it's good that you have it in the right place, but the discipline to not eat the fruit salad, not there for Arun. Nobody is perfect. It remains to be seen here on NVAX, however, if my out is perfect, we'll see. I target this rollover, and the reason why I'm going to take this one off in front of VWAP, we're going to get our, you know, so the second half of the trade ends up being $3. We took around $1 on the first half, $3 on the second half of the trade. Very happy with it. Now, why I'm not holding for the bigger move is because it was the test of 115, where if it failed there, I really thought that was going to be the home run. You know, break a few people out of that short initially, and then it'll go even further with less resistance to the downside. So, you know, that didn't happen. It wasn't the A+ setup, so it was more like a, I don't know, like a B+, whatever you want to call it, like a 7 or 8 out of 10 there. So we'd make money on it. I just think it would have been a bigger trade had it actually flushed through some of these pre-market areas and then rolled over. Maybe then I would have held through VWAP. But again, you got to have your own risk parameters. We try to give you, to the best of our abilities, our thought process on these trades. That's why you can have the same target entry points. This is what I'm looking at in the chart. This is my breakout price. This is where I like the consolidation. And then two traders will treat it completely differently once they're in the trade. So we try to give you the thoughts on what we're looking at here. And thank you for the super chat there, Joe. I have not looked at TOPS or GLB. Oh, I did look at GLBS. IBIO, just so you guys know, I did get trailed out of that one through VWAP. We talk about having a stop. And look, it's entirely possible it makes a secondary bounce. I wasn't letting this reload go past 255. I talked about sliding it out there. So not quite the break I was looking for to the upside towards that $3. Overall, if you don't do things like this, you don't end up positive on the trade if you are scalping. You have to take profit if you are doing short-term, quick, in and out scalping trading, guys. That's what we do here up at the top. At a couple of targets that missed by a few cents. It's going to happen to you, but you got to have it out there. Time for a little bit of money talks. Let's go to Brendan at the big screen.
Hey guys, yeah, currency time. Let's have a look at the overall FX market here. It's been a very volatile summer for the US dollar. This is the DXY, the US dollar index. You can see this is going back to the beginning of June. So big sell-off for the US dollar. Then we've been back and forth between 92.5 and 93.5, even 94 on the DXY. So a little bit of a down tick once again means a lot of these going to be in positive territory here, including the euro, 118.2. No specific news moving these around today, but Canadian dollar back to the upside, 75.75. British pound here, 131 again, up 0.5%. Japanese yen also in positive territory. Both Australia and New Zealand moving higher on the day as well. Cryptos to the downside, 11,400 once again for Bitcoin. 2.8% to the downside for Bitcoin today. Ethereum as well making that outside move again. 4% versus 2% for Bitcoin. We've been seeing that over the past week or so. But as I mentioned, the dollar index here, the story as far as currencies are concerned, back to the downside, some weakness coming in for the US dollar. Guys, back over to you.
All right, just a quick update. BABA, I'm still managing. This thing is still running. We're about $4 in the money on BABA. I've moved the stop, the trailing stop from 281.20 to 283. I told you guys that 284, that move, that tail that we were getting to 284 was large. I was wondering what was going to happen with that. Well, it seems like we're going to push past it again. So that gives me enough indication that there's some selling here. So if we get back through there, I need to move out of the way. So 283, I'm sitting just underneath that. 283 is now the trailing stop. That is locking in $3 right now, guys. We've already locked in $1 on the first half, $3 on the second half, and then still $4.25 in the money at the moment. So we're just going to let that one go. Of course, SRN is doing absolutely nothing at the moment. And back to the super chat. Someone said, is there a stock that you refuse to trade? The way I approach the market is there are certain price points that I don't really pay attention to when it comes to expensive stocks. So I don't really go past, say, the $500-600 mark. I know there's some stocks there like Apple, and they kind of flirt with that level quite a bit. But I don't go too expensive because it's very hard to read. I like to read the volume. I like to read the activity. And when the stocks get up that high, it takes no shares to move the stock. So I try try not to go into those big Teslas and the Amazons and the really expensive ones. So I stay away from those. And on the low end as well, some of them just take too long and they don't really move on the low end, you know, the sub dollars. Some of them do have a lot of activity recently, especially, but I try to stay between a price point. But going back to I'll go to Brendan and we'll come back and I'll tell you guys another story.
Digital Turbine, guys. Sorry to interrupt, Arun, but Digital Turbine apps, we mentioned this yesterday. Not seeing any recent news, but nice move back higher. So you remember big move down yesterday, a couple dollars to the downside for apps after this run up that this thing's been on the daily time frame. But really like this chart. We already went from 23.5 up to 25, but consolidating with 25 here as support for APPS. Still negative territory, but looking like we might test higher, guys.
Okay.
Yeah, looking like it might not test higher is going to be Rocket. Well, I mean, it remains to be seen here at 27 double bottom that we are seeing. It's technically 27.11 if you want to get a look at that. But I'm watching the even dollar price. It's down only 5%. But that doesn't really tell the story because you obviously had a gap up in the morning. So it's a $5 move from top to bottom here on RKT here, Rocket, sorry. I still maintain I'll probably I had this little out here at 29, and if it ever gets back up to that price, that's likely a breakout scalp for me to about 30. Otherwise, I'm looking at this double bottom, and I'm going to go short if it breaks 27 even. But I'm likely to take at least one crack at this one with a very, very tight stop in front of 27 before reversing into that short position. I already covered NBAX for you guys. It did break through VWAP, and like I said, you might get the bigger win here and a bigger rollover. It just didn't give me the absolute perfect entry, and that's why I'll take it off for only the $3 on that trade. Worth noting that NEO, which I did get out of before it made fresh all-time highs, giving some consolidation here around the 1615 area. So you break up towards the 1675. It's now finally giving you consolidation and some sideways action. It's up 10%. There's going to be a point at which I think I'm going to try the short. And man, it's getting very, very tight here at 50. It's going to be easy for me to be able to just say, hey, if it breaks 50 to the downside, let's take this one out, maybe get 48, 49, whatever we can, give it up to only this 59 area for the quick little short. If it goes right away, I think a lot of longs might be bailing. Maybe you get something to 25 and then to VWAP, in a matter of minutes. I'll file that one away in the back pocket, have my order ready to go. But for now, it's still doing tremendous volume, cracking that 100 million mark and sort of sustaining volume. Much better than some of the other names that I've been looking at so far as we head towards that 11 o'clock hour. But it's got to break 50. I want to join sellers rather than start the party myself. So 1650 break on NIO to the downside. Brendan, what do you got?
Medtronic, MDT, another one with earnings out pre-market this morning that were better than expected. Nice gap higher. We tested 105 a couple of times and failed up there. So just broke 104 now, back to the downside for MDT on a volume spike, guys.
Okay, guys, BABA, we're just going to make a quick update on BABA. The fact that we moved back underneath 284 down to 283.60 and kind of bounced back tells me that, this activity that we're seeing, they seem to be getting past this. So I'm more confident with this 283 trailing stop here. So we're going to leave this. We're going to potentially, if this comes back through 283.60 and actually hesitates again, I might actually just go ahead and take more shares here because it's only going to cost me 60 cents with the 283 trailing stop. So that might open up a brand new trade for me. And this is just a runner, right? So we're just going to manage this, and potentially if we find great locations, we'll just go ahead and grab some more shares there. Futures, of course, we're still flirting with this area to 34.25, 34.20. If we start to hesitate a little bit more, not just hesitate, it actually needs to show some strength to the upside. Right now, we're not getting any. Brendan, what do you got?
Valeria's Starbucks is higher, guys. We saw this during Sector Watch. Just broke day highs on Starbucks on a bit of a volume spike there, 3%. It was Stifle with the upgrade and price target increase for S-Bucks today, guys.
Okay, guys.
All those orders that she's doing to the upside, that's why it's going up. You know what it is.
Yeah. Okay. Just a quick update as well. I'm looking at FSLY here. I like the fact that we broke through 287 even. This was a nice little push down through the bottom of the range and kind of turned. This is exactly what happened with Amgen, and that was a nice ride. It was a short ride, but it was a nice ride. It moved fairly quickly. The fact that we moved down through the range and came back above, a lot of these traps I really like because it changes direction so quickly. A lot of people tend to freak out, and then it goes in the opposite direction very quickly as everyone rushes for the door. So 87.50, that's a nice little push here. What I'm going to look for it to do now, if it comes back into that 87.50, 87 even level, starts to slow down, I'm going to go ahead and go long down here with 85 even on the stop. What I'm going to go back to is a story about that stock that I refused to trade. Well, I told you, I trade between price ranges, right? But there's one stock that I traded once in my life and I will never trade again. When I first started trading, there was actually a ticker with my name on it, Arun. I went ahead and shorted that stock, took one trade, made a little bit of money, and I said, I'm positive on myself, I'm never going to take another trade, and that was it. And now the stock doesn't even exist. Aruba Networks no longer exists on the market. So I'm perfectly okay with the fact that that stock is completely gone off because I am positive on that stock for myself now. So, hey, and the other thing too, guys, there was a lot of commentary yesterday about like dark pools and stuff. We mentioned it. Yeah, there's some stocks where it's very hard to get into shares because if you put an order down, the market runs away from you because it's too visible and it's bigger than what the market is expecting, or kind of its size kind of scares people away. So you can send orders through the dark pool, right? And here at DTW, we are powered by DTW, right? So I think on Thursday we got a session happening on Thursday with them as well. So because of that, because of the access that's provided, I can go ahead and send my orders through the different venues, and I have access to actually all of them, actually, with Barclays and Sigma X being the preferable ones for me. But with that access, it kind of lets you slide in and out unseen. It's a two-layer system. It's like the internet, right? There's the websites that you can see. That is a lit market. That is what everyone, for the most part, trades off of. And then there's the dark web online, which is or for the market as well. There's the dark pools where you can do everything undetected for the most part. There are different rules in place for those, but yeah, you can kind of hide your sizes a little bit. You can either hide them through the dark pools, or you can actually iceberg them. I know Niels talks about iceberg, where I can I'll display, if I want a 10,000 share order, I'll display 100 and hide the rest. That's a possibility as well. There's a lot of things that come into play. Just be aware. That's all like technically complicated stuff, especially if you're starting out. That's not something to worry about. Just work on your strategy, work on your systems.
But you know what, Arun, and this is going to be a little bit shameless here, because obviously you want to know what's going on. What do we mean by dark pools? What is it like an iceberg? What does adding liquidity mean? What is level 2? This is why we have our Market Wisdom channel. I got to show you, today we are talking, dropping a video on stop orders versus sort of stop limit orders. And you might hear us just use the term a stop, but there are two different types. Whether you engage with a market order or put a specific price in, it's good and important to understand what your broker provides, why you might want to use one versus the other. Everything in this game is about controlling what you can. The market is going to do what it's going to do, and you can't predict exactly what is going to happen. What you can control, however, is the amount of knowledge that you retain, learning the tools of your broker and your platform, like we have here with Pete Pro 8 at Day Trade the World, and understanding the market structure as well to the best of your abilities and taking advantage of that, guys. So that your education never stops. We try to do this on our Market Wisdom channel. I want to come back to a couple of things here, and I want to thank the super chat there from Mr. Wheelie making a nice little trade in NIO. I did talk about where I would roll over on it at 50. Hasn't happened. Retesting the top. Can't seem to stop it yet. 75 looks like it could break. If it does fail here, I definitely will be involved in that 50 break, especially if it fails to make a fresh high at 11 o'clock. Speaking of 11 o'clock, it's time to get to the big screen for Valeria with our European update.
Hey guys, welcome to the European update. Europe is mixed today. Warsaw is leading down 1.1%. Britain is down 0.97%. Russia is down 0.14%. Germany is up 0.19%. And France is up 0.29%. IAG led the early gains in Europe today, is up more than 3%. That's all with the Europe, and I'll keep you updated. Back to traders.
Okay, so I'm looking at this chat and everyone's like, we need a bang. We miss Sean saying bang, bang, bang. No, that's his thing. It's Sean loves that big in-your-face thing. No. I'm just going to give you guys a pew, because I'm one of those guys just sits there. I'll take my shot, and no one needs to know it happened. So I'm going to do that very quietly. That's what you're getting from me. No bangs. You're going to get a little pew. That's what you're getting. That's it. We're not.
Can you do that again, please? I need a few more of those.
No. I don't have any more trades. Oh, you know what? I'll give you a Baba here. Baba, I am updating you guys on Baba. Baba's now $6.72 in the money in the second half. This thing is absolutely on a tear. This is the kind of trade that I do need to make up for that mess from Netflix, or not, yeah, it was Netflix this morning. So we are still trading 283, 286, and 287 is actually coming up now. That's about $4 away from the trailing stop. So what I'm going to do is move the trailing stop to 283.50. I think that's enough, more than enough action. The fact that we backed off that 285 gives me some confidence. The problem is that 284.5 is also there. So 283.50 is going to be the new trailing stop. Of course, I want to move this because this is way too far. I don't want to give back $4 if this is going fast and aggressively. It is. But in the meantime, I'm just going to sit back here and give you a pew.
I like that pew. That's, everyone's got to have a little catchphrase in your own style. You have to be yourself, ultimately, whether it's as a trader or in life. I want to get to Sorrento, and it's starting to actually feel like there could be a trade in here. After missing out on the bottom pick, missing out on the breakout, it is consolidating a little bit here above that $8 range. And whether you want to look at VWAP at 815, I would much prefer either 810 or 8 even for entry points to the south side. I like both of them. However, let's not ignore the fact that it just turned negative to positive. 812 was the previous close. So if it bounces off here, I also want some exposure to some positive consequences on that upside push. That would likely be through an 840 break. So I'm going to go with a bracket. If it breaks 840, I am going long on SRNE. I will dip into the short only below yesterday's close. So I'll call it that 810 initially, and then maybe add to the position on an 8 even break. So Sorrento going to give me a bracket opportunity. Rocket, you know what? I did mention bottom picking this one. If I was aggressive and off the second bounce just immediately got in instead of waiting for consolidation, yep, we'd be staring a winner back into VWAP in the face. However, I did have conditions under which I wanted the long. At this time of day, I think being picky is worth it. I still will go break short if it takes out 27. It does appear like it's trying to at least get back towards that 29, where I am still looking at a break, guys. And NEO has broken prior high, got 10 cents further. I'll look at 17. I still want to catch a rollover at some point. NEO tends to have very, very good reversals, whether it's at lunchtime, whether it's in the afternoon. But I need to see it start to sell off here. Bit of an offer here. I see at 82, but nothing yet. So 29 break in the cards for me on Rocket. But otherwise, I'm looking for that Sorrento trade, guys. I think that could be a good one in either direction, but hopefully it looks like it does want to take out the bottom first. That'll be 810 for me. Brennan, what do you got?
Another little run up here on this VVPR, Vivo Power, back to the upside, just tagged 450 or 475 rather up there on that last little spike. You can see volume still coming in. This thing has to get, I mean, in my opinion anyways, $5 out here. Really obvious level on the daily chart from yesterday around the close. So $5 for VVPR before we get interested. But nice look here, still doing decent volume, guys.
Yeah, and another name that starts with V, bouncing again off 105 is going to be Vive. I am still going short if it breaks this 105 mark, and probably even more when it breaks one even. It's just got to meet those conditions. You are seeing the volume really, really taper off, and the longer it does that, probably the more likely that I would sort of size down. Liquidity is good, and that's why it can be deceiving. You're going to look at the level 2 and see all of this liquidity, but you're going to see volume drying up at lunchtime. So VIVE still on the radar. It's just not nearly as volatile as we were definitely seeing in the past. I promised you guys that I would tell you the gaff that I made. You guys will see me trade on almost a daily basis over in GUY. I don't even know if I have it on my quote board. I might have to manually put this one in for you guys to be able to see here. I'll show you what it looks like on a level 2. This is going to be Guy on a level 2. It's going to be one of the most ridiculous level 2s you'll ever see. This is the bid, which is just millions of shares on the bid, and tons of shares on the offer. Now, this is a cash deal. They're being bought out Guyana at $1.85. So I've been long it almost every single day, 78, 80, 81. Spread trading in the back. I basically can have a stock not move anywhere and then make the spread. Had some success doing it here today. 85, 84 half, 84 long, trying to get some of that out now reversal. What you will see here is this order at 83. Now, every single day when I'm market making, knowing where to put orders in for size and trying to only make 1 or 2 pennies on a large amount of shares, I know what prices are good. However, as confident as you are, I should always check the news every single morning. You want to make sure that nothing is fundamentally changed. I can 100 days in a row not check the news, and it means nothing because the stock's not going anywhere. But that one day that I don't, what ends up happening on Guyana, this is a daily chart, this really doesn't move for a while. The deal's closing in a couple of days. I take a small amount, it ends up only being 10,000 shares. So it's really not that bad. At 183, I put the offer in, and immediately someone says, oh, I'll take that price because it's going to be at 184 by 185 today. And it's one of those things. If you have a set of rules that you got to follow, one of them is I don't put orders out in the pre-market without checking the news on that stock, even if it hasn't moved in 50 days. Today I didn't do it, and somebody made a quick $100 off of me. All you got to do, guys, is have a checklist for your individual strategies of what you do before you put risk on. It ends up being a small hit that I can make back, but it's the principle. Principle is priceless. It could have been a much larger position. I was using larger shares yesterday and thankfully did not at 8 o'clock in the morning when I got burned. So always make sure you go through your checklist before you put orders on. I've been trading since 2003. Making that mistake is something that I was telling one of the guys on the floor. I literally will probably still do it once or twice a year. Nobody is immune to those types of mistakes. Completely boneheaded on my part, literally throwing away money. Somebody made that money by watching the news saying, deal price is 185. It's now closing in a couple of days. It's going to move to the upside. Who's that sucker selling 183? I'm going to buy from them in the pre-market. That's what happened to me, guys. Either way, I find it amusing there. I also want to note here, Brendan mentioned Gap. It is making another test at that high. I'm not looking at 1690. I'd much be more interested in 17 even through the top. Sorrento, finally short, guys.
Okay, so I'm just going to, there was a question that was posted, Valeria mentioned it to me, is the way I have my chart set up. Okay, so the way I like to have my chart set up, you'll see here, I have 6 charts here on my screen. The way I will initially look at a stock is, and the reason I'm giving this to you guys is because I can give it to you. It doesn't matter. It's not going to affect my strategy in any way whatsoever because I know the details of it, and so I understand it. So I have no problem sharing this with you guys. So 6 charts. I'll start with the long-term picture. So 60-minute chart going back a multiple days. So I'll say NVIDIA, right? So if I like a setup, a breakout, or some sort of consolidation off the 60, I'll mark off the levels, and those are the trades I look to take. Once I get in them, though, I'll start managing them with the 5-minute. You'll see on Apple here, once I took that 495 break the second time around, I managed it with the 5. I knew going back, zooming out, there was going to be some hesitation here, so I took some profit, and then the rest of it was based on a trail on the 5. Sometimes you end up in a situation like this where the 5 is just too far, where BABA is now $7.53 in the money, and I have nowhere to put it. Remember, 283 was supposed to be the trailing stop, and if I look at a 5-minute chart, I don't know how to manage this because there's no reason to put it that far down. I mean, there is a reason, but it's way too far down. I can't give up $4, almost $5 in profit just because the way it's moving. Well, okay, so what I'm going to do is then in that situation, that special situation, what I'll do is I'll move it into the 1-minute chart and try to protect as much as I can. So this way I've got 286.50. That's how I'm running the trail on BABA. That locks in about $6.50 on the second half after making $1 on the first half. You'll see this was fairly quick. It was hesitating, so I took some profit. Now this is starting to go, and this is now $8.23 in the money. This is still going. So this may come back down. That's perfectly okay. But BABA, this is one of those trades where when it starts to run, you have to let it go and kind of just find a way to manage it. And this is the way I'm managing it. And the great thing about these kind of stocks, and like especially when you've been trading for a while, is the way you find your way in. Now, if I get in, I'll aggressively get in. We have keys here set up. Again, this is DTW, so we have a ton of options here on how we decide to get in. So some of the cheaper alternatives for us, we don't have a set cost per trade. We do have a per share cost. So if I decide to get in, I can run it through a specific combination of routers and ATSs that allows me to kind of save on cost depending on the share size. So if I decide to get in, I'll use a routing key. That's what we have, or what it's called, a routing key to get in. And then once I decide to get out, I know this market's running. I know I can sit on the offer. I can put a limit order, and I want to lower the cost of the exit. Because I'm not being charged per trade and I'm being charged per share, this allows me to kind of just sit on the offer and put the order into a combination of venues. You'll see on Neil, especially when he has a level 2. Actually, you know what? Let me just move one of the level 2s here on the main screen. You'll see on this level 2, there's a bunch of little characters or characters here under MPID. You'll see all the different ones. You'll see NYB is the New York book. That's mostly where the big trades, not big trades, but that's from the main book. But you'll see here a lot of the other ones. And let me go to a different stock actually so you can actually see them. You'll see ARB, EG, EDGX. These are all the different venues I can send the order through. So I know that if I set on, personally, I just favor ARB just because I know it's kind of the better in terms of credit. So I'll send an order through ARB and I'll just wait passively, and I know it reduces the cost of it for a trade like that. And if you guys want more detail on Thursday, I believe we do have a session with DTW. So just tune in for that. Definitely keep an eye out, because there's a ton of advantages, especially with the dark pools too. So a lot of the things that we're talking about trading, when we're talking about trading, you may not have access to it based on the broker, but just be aware that this is what we're doing. Sometimes when I say, oh, I'm sending it through a dark pool, or I'm trying to get credits, or when Neil was just talking about Guy, he's trying to make rebates. That's what we're doing. We're sending it through different venues that are cost effective, or sometimes you just don't care and you want the shares. That's when you send a routing key and you're like, forget it, charge me whatever you want, just give me the shares, right? But other times when the stock's in favor, you just kind of want to reduce the cost a little bit. So that's kind of, you're playing a little game. Once you've been trading for a while and you're no longer worried about your strategy and you're trying to just reduce the cost, you try to start playing games around with the different venues that you send the orders into, so that you can actually just work with them and kind of get the fills at cheaper prices, or sometimes get the fill faster. Like going back to this, let me bring it back to Ford, guys. You'll see Ford here. This is multiplied by 100. So 2093 times 100 is the actual share size. This is...
Hey, Runa, I want to interrupt just for a quick second. Are you still looking at Honeywell? Because
no.
I'm just sort of looking at this 164.50, looking like a pretty significant pullback area. Of course, we talked about Honeywell being added to the Dow, getting some kind of a bounce. So it looks like it's running into a higher low support at 164.50. I think that can be used for a couple of reasons. One, I think it was a quick scalp sell into the low. 130.63.50 is the actual low of the day. But I mean, at this time, I might actually take a bit of a bounce play, see if it can't get back into VWAP, test 166. So I haven't traded Honeywell yet, but I'm just noticing a nice little double bottom. It's got some positive news that we can work with, and I'm going to dip into some Honeywell for the first time for me today in front of that 164.50. And I might even reverse short for a quick little scalp if I get a chance. But just saw that trade line up and wanted to get to it so you guys can see. I am putting it on. It is lunchtime, so I mean, I'll temper my expectations to the upside in terms of any momentum, but certainly like the level, like the bounce in some Honeywell now. Brendan, what do you got?
Big commerce, guys. Big C, big move here for Big C. Looks like they're teaming up with Facebook to do some work on the merchants app for both Facebook and Instagram. So big commerce, huge run up here from 76 to 86 here on monster volume on that news, guys. So have a look at Big C, guys.
All right, yeah, Honeywell, I haven't tried. I took that short initially, the short that you're thinking. Are you thinking short there, Neil?
I'm taking a quick scalp long in front of that 164.50, but I am reversing short. If that level breaks, I'm definitely going to be shorting through it. I just want to see if we can get back to VWAP for a quick scalp as well.
I tried that short earlier. It did not work out, so I stopped looking at Honeywell. No longer interested. And looks like Baba is finally hitting that 286 area. It's moving quickly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get out of Baba as well. Right now, you'll see my screen. It will go red here. There you go. That's me getting out of my position there on Baba. So we're flat. We're still working SRNE. That's still about 25 cents out of the money. Back to what I was saying about these venues, right? You'll see the different venues that we have access to. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, if I wanted a position to get it faster, you'll see there's different sizes on each venue. Of course, the main book is where a lot of the orders get sent, but there's other ATSs where I can go through. I can go through BATS here, and there's only 230 or 23,000 shares there. Or 23,000? Yeah, 23,000 shares there. So if I wanted to go there, I can just go through there, and most likely, if there's enough activity on BATS, I'll just get the fill before NYB gets filled. So there's a lot of games to be played if you really are no longer just worried about just strategy and focusing on the actual kind of cost effectiveness or trying to minimize the cost, things like that. So there's a lot more to be played. Just focus on the strategy first, and once you get past that, then you start worrying about other things like costs and things like that. But again, pay attention to your strategy. And hey, you know what? When you pay attention to your strategy, something like this happens, right? Long at 280, out at 281, and out at 286. What is it? 11. The order slipped a little bit, but I'm okay. That's about $6. $1 here, $6 there. We're making money here, and there's no more trades. The only trade I've got left is this SRNE. That has absolutely done nothing since I got in. And hey, Apple, I think we hit it right at the location that we need to get out, that 293 or 493 half area, because of this, right? This area right here, going back a couple of days, and I just completely moved out of the way at 494, and it's back to 500 almost now, 498. The way I would work this now, again, 510 is the area, so I moved this back to the 60-minute chart. Try to find a setup here, and 510 is the level that I'm looking at. So if there's a setup around 504, 505, great. And the other thing before we go to Neil here, I just want to quickly give you guys an update on the futures. For nice little bounce off that 34.25. This is the area that I was looking for, that bounce. The market, nice little sharp bounce. If we can kind of go back through that 34.30 and kind of hold out again, I'm going to go ahead and get a long here, 34.30, 34.10. Not yet. I want to actually see this thing try to go back underneath 34.30 and actually bounce again one more time. Just not yet, just because we had a ton of sell pressure since we got through that 35. There's been active selling, so I want to make sure that selling is gone before I decide to step in there.
Yeah, a bit of a dump here in NIO. It does turn off that 1690 area, not quite getting to that 17. It just retests that 1650, enough to at least for me to wet my beak, starting a bit of a position here at exactly basically that price in the 50 range. I might take some more if it doesn't make a bounce up and a retest of the higher low. Honeywell basically still flat. I did enter that one at 64.79. 50 is that sort of turning point. If it breaks down below that, I will flip into the short position from that long that we have on. I have SRNE as well. That's not really going anywhere. I got that 812 previous close is what we're looking at there. I do want to jump back to NVAX as well. So it does bounce off VWAP. I take it out in front, but it is starting to come back here. And if it breaks like 109, I think maybe this could give you that retest of 112. I still like the 115 area. I will be watching that closely throughout the rest of the day. If it doesn't come anytime soon, which seems rather likely at this point, I did like the short there a little bit more than that 112 area that we already made the nice winner on an NVAX. We took this one short a couple of times. In that 111 range, down, took some out in front of 109. Big buyer got broken, and then out in front of VWAP. I like to have a target if I'm playing a counter trend trade like that. I mean, obviously, it was down 9%, but the trend since the open was a hard bounce off the upside and then holding VWAP at 105 initially. Then we took that rollover trade, guys. So if I'm trading counter trend, I got to have an idea what I'm doing with it. NIO, still holding this consolidation. I'm not going to add to it unless I get something in the 60s. I think that's a little bit more prudent. A few more positions on than we would normally have at this time of day. And to add to that little party, I just want to jump over to IBIO, which, believe it or not, is finally taking out this little bottom. We talked about this mid 240 range when we were holding that long. It held it. It's now broken, so we do not get the run to $3. Our last out on our long was right here at VWAP at 55. But now I'm on the short party. If we want to continue this trend, I will ride this all the way down to that 220, which was support right at that open. We'll scalp it all the way down there. IBIO, short 245, guys.
Okay, so I know there's a lot of talk here in the chat about Big C. Is it taking off? It is up $13 out of nowhere. Here's the problem. This is one of those things where the momentum trading is at its finest if you can catch it on the way up, but then it becomes a problem. So if I pull up the level 2, the chart is right here. This is a level 2. Look at the spread here: 92.30 on the offer and 91.54 on the bid. If I'm going to hit the offer, I'm paying up here all the way, and there's next to no shares as well. So this is one of those things where, because of the way it moves, these stocks, they move this quickly, and it's not liquid at all. So it's very hard to trade. So I try to stay away from these stocks when they're moving like this. If the move is already happening, it's kind of hard to actually play that game. If you get in before the move happens, great. We see that on BABA, right? You don't have to chase it anymore. But once the move gets going, and this is the kind of spread you're dealing with, are you willing to pay 55 cents? So you have to pay essentially 55 cents past the price where it's trading at just to get the shares, of course, and then hope that it actually covers the spread immediately, and it's got no liquidity. So that's a no-go for me. And I was also keeping an eye on, you guys mentioned, or I mentioned earlier, BA, when it got through that, I think it was around the 77.50 area, and I was looking for that bounce back through 78.50. Never got there. Look at that thing's gone. Unfortunately, that's one of those trades that did not come back, and that happens sometimes when you're looking for the right risk reward. What do you got, Brendan?
We're talking about $5 on this VVPR. Hey, guess what? We're there. Back to $5 once again. $5.50 even was this high from yesterday, following earnings rather on Vivo Power, VVPR here, but holding 5 right now as resistance. Look at the volume coming into this, guys, on the ramp up here. for VVPR, still 40%, guys.
Yeah, I mean, volume. Speaking of volume, I mean, the volume through on a big C here, big commerce. I'm going to call it big C because it's just easier. Through 95, the new top, it is trying to roll downside. I mean, look at the daily chart. 100 is sort of that next level. Go the other way here for you. 100 would be that sort of next level, and that would have been, just going back a couple of weeks. If it tested that, I would definitely have already been into the short. I think turning at 95, a little bit shallow of that price, is one of the reasons why I'm not going to be in it, but the volume is the real story holding up here, just continuing. So there's a lot of buy action to the upside on this name. I would love it much more to that south side trade in front of 100. I did reverse in Honeywell to the short side trade, so quick 25-cent loss, and then we'll jump into the short on the 164.50 break. I want to get you quickly back to NEO, which was a great breakout. We had this one, to the long side. We did give the level and not take the trade, unfortunately, at 15.30. Make sure you get the watch list and tune in. We're talking about these at 9 o'clock. We did finally cash the breakout at 16, taking off maybe a little bit shy, but that was the previous all-time high at 16.40. Now I'm in the rollover trade here, guys. So a couple of dips into NEO here. If it breaks through 50s, I'm looking for it to come back into VWAP. Decent chance it might bounce off of it, which would still be a profitable trade for me. Not necessarily a home run here, but look, at lunchtime, I'll take 15 to 25 pennies and then try and roll the last 20% for a move down into 16 even. But a bit of a rollover happening in NEO, so we are picking this one to the south side. Honeywell, I do have 41s short, now looking to roll that one over as well. I mean, you had Honeywell 0 for 1 on the short, Arun. I'm going to try to dip my hands in here. Yes, it's being added to the Dow, and that is positive, but sometimes the news gets sold off, and it doesn't really mean what it used to mean. We saw what happened with Walgreens, not a heck of a lot when they got out of it. But here comes NEO to the downside. Once it breaks 50, let's look 25 to 30 for some targets. Maybe in front of 30, we'll take some out. 15, 20 cents is pretty good at this time of day.
Okay, so Microsoft, guys, they took off the top from about the 21st a few days ago. That puts a nice little breakout high just above this 216.50 is the area that I'm looking at. Well, I think the high was 216.20 or so, but I'm looking at 216.50. If we can get back above there, right now we're backed off. It could just have been a run on stops here very quickly, so I'm going to wait to see how it plays when it gets back above 216.50. Of course, if we get in, settle in, then I think we really have a chance here. 215 even is going to be the new stop. I don't know why this line is here. 215 even is going to be the new stop with 216.50 on the break. Of course, it's dependent entirely on how this market plays itself out. Because the fact that we got up there, ran some stops and then backed off to 50, 40 cents, that's kind of concerning. Could that have been just a false break? That's a potential as well. So in the event that it actually is a false break, what I'm going to do is if it breaks down below 215, I'll go ahead and take the short with the 216 high, whatever the high is on Microsoft at the moment, off that top there. So once I figure that out, I think the high is 216.52 is the high. So if we get through 215, I'll go ahead and take the short, 216.52 on the high. If we get through the top, I'll go ahead and go long, the 215 even on the stop. Brandon, what do you got?
A bit of a volume spike here, guys, on GOGO. GOGO on the NASDAQ just popping up here through $4. So we broke $4. We also had a little bit of a technical breakout if you look at the daily time frame through 390. So 390 up to 4. Significant area for GOGO. They also had a little bit of a story this morning announcing that they've reached 1,000 business jets when it comes to, this is a wireless connectivity company, so they install software on jets, one of them business jets, so up to 1,000 now using their software for air or ground to surface connectivity, guys.
Yeah, good look there on that one. Continuing to roll to the downside. I mean, again, like I said, I would have loved 100 here on big C, little c. What begins with C? I think it's camel on a ceiling. I can't believe I remember that. Why? Because I read far too many kids' books to my daughter there. If you know where that's from, if you don't know where that's from, then maybe you don't have kids, but certainly Dr. Zeus is a big one there for you guys. I want to jump over, and of course, I've taken Honeywell as a bit of a trade here. We talked about all of the Dow sort of additions. The other one is CRM, which you look at the rollover that's potentially happening here in Honeywell to the south side. My short's only in the money, a few pennies here, looking for a bit more. But CRM has been just steadily climbing to the upside. Basically like bouncing on every single pullback is getting bought. at some point, you got to figure there might be a bit of a rollover here. But, CRM, this 217 top, looking pretty interesting to me, whether it's going to be tomorrow or a little bit later on in the afternoon. I don't know that I would be shorting it unless it was below 214. So as relatively, I guess, I don't want to say weak because Honeywell's still up, CRM, of the names being added, looks like it's going to be the strong push to the upside. NEO, on the other hand, man, that was setting up and looking like it was finally going to start to go to the downside. I started to throw some orders in, looking like that was going to be the slide. It picks up some buyers in that low 50s to just below actually 50, 49. There was a bit of buying as well. I think we're okay until about 70, so I'm not too worried about this position. But I will say here, it is a bit surprising how much, I shouldn't say surprising, it is impressive, I would say, is the amount of buying that I'm sort of seeing come through on all of these dips. The volume is still holding up solidly at 1130 here, guys, so watch out for NEO. Maybe even possible that it could make a secondary push to the upside. I don't want to get too far away from NVAX. It is looking like it wants to try to do a bit of a rollover. The plan here, guys, if it breaks 112, I'll be looking for a short between 113 and 115 with a 115 stop. Fundraising Fire Engine. Love that name there. Welcome to our membership. Welcome to the channel if you're brand new, but we love to see new members always. But I love these names that you guys come up with. Very creative, certainly. I also want to let you guys know coming up, dropping in just a few minutes, we're going to be having another one of our educational videos. This one, we talk about stop orders all the time, and knowing the difference between stops and limit stops is very, very important. I use almost exclusive limit orders here. There are places for market orders and traditional stop orders. I just find knowing the difference is going to be important to you regardless of which one you choose. So check that out on our Market Wisdom page, guys. That's going to be coming up in just a little bit. Not too much time left in the show, only about a half an hour here. So I want to make sure we're updating a few of the positions. I did have the reversal in IBIO. Southside trade here. I've resisted the temptation to sort of dig in too heavily. I want to see if I can't get something closer to that 255 area, but I kind of feel like this could turn into one of those hold it the entire afternoon short if it holds below VWAP, and then you get that retracement to 220. So being patient, it is lunchtime. I've got the structure that I like. I can give it to that 60 area if I like. No need to jump aggressively into more shares at a bad entry price. Here comes NEO testing 250 once again. Until it gets to the low 40s, I'm not taking anything off, and I'll get more aggressive between 25 and 35. NEO finally looking like it might have had a bit of a turn there, guys. Been a great trade long, but sometimes you got to play those pullbacks.
Okay, so just a quick update on the futures, guys. I'm just going to give you what I'm seeing right now. Again, we knew, I mentioned earlier, between 34.25 going down to 34.20, actually from 34.30 all the way down to 34.20, there's going to be some action. And the fact that I was expecting a bounce, we got the bounce, but the problem was that I was seeing sell-side activity as we were moving through those levels. So what I mean by that is when I go up to the 5-minute chart, it's a chart based, at the same time, I'm also looking at the volume actually going through the market or going through the time of sales as well. So you'll see every time we bounce, there was some activity on the overhead that was actually selling through the bottom, even though we're going into a zone that was considered a buy zone. So the fact that we are selling into that buy zone is concerning. The fact that we bounced and then are starting to back off a little bit is a little bit more concerning. So yes, I'm looking for a long inside of the zone, but at the same time, I don't like the fact that they're still willing to sell every bounce, not every bounce, but they are willing to sell as we move up through that area. So the activity that we're seeing pre-market, not just pre-market, but going into the open as well, the fact that they're willing to sell through that 34.30 is a little concerning. So I'm not stepping into the long just yet. I'm still looking for some more interest here. You'll see that this is the 5-minute chart. I'm going to switch between the charts multiple times. I like the big picture view on the 60. That tells me the zone is good, but the problem is now the activity that's happening inside that zone is not that great right now. Of course, this could actually go through 34.35, at which point the long becomes in play, but at the same time, I'm not willing to pay. That's the thing too. When I talk about trades, I'm also managing the risk-reward situation at the same time. So once the long goes in play at 34.35, then I have to figure out, am I really willing to risk 25 points on the downside, knowing that there's only 15 points in upside before we run into some more selling? So no, the answer is no. So what I'm going to do is actually let it break 34.35, let it back down again through 34.30, slow down one more time, then I catch the long. There's a lot of things that go into play when I decide to take a trade on these futures, because there's a ton of risk that goes into each and every trade. So I really can't be afforded to be reckless. So I'm going to try to be really smart about what entries I'm looking for, what conditions I'm looking for. So that's what I'm looking for right now. 34.35 going through, then back down through 34.30, then some more buy side activity. Then I step into the long. That's worth the 20 points in risk. And then of course we're looking towards that 34.50 on the top end. Of course, BABA. I think we did a pretty good job with that exit on BABA, guys. I'll just go quickly identify what I was looking at there. 286.50 was the trailing stop. After that, 287. And we looked on the 1 minute chart there. What do you got, Brendan?
Pretty impressive, guys. New highs once again for Big Commerce here. Just tagged 98 on that last little push to the upside. Watch $100, big level on the daily chart for Big Commerce, guys. Huge deal with Facebook, guys.
Yeah, I was just about to say that same thing, Brendan. It's another push up on this name. And I did mention I preferred waiting for 100 to see if it does roll here. It looks like 98 is the new high, so very, very close. And it is getting to that round number. We talked about it and looked at it on the daily chart. And this is what we came up with. It has been, as high as 104, but I want to see it test that lower high first before I jump into the south side trade. And we can short it for free here, Day Trade the World, so it's easy to borrow. I am going to jump in if I see that shot in and turn around like 99. If there's any size there, maybe give you a little bit more confidence in that trade. It is that time of day you don't want to overtrade. I got a few shorts on as the market is starting to roll over. I mean, Honeywell, IBIO, and NEO, and also Sorrento we have to the south side, guys. So there are a lot of names that I am working with to the short side trade. I want to add Big C to it, but it's got to be very, very structured as an idea when you get these parabolic moves up on legitimately good news here for this name. So I don't want to jump in haphazardly with poor risk to reward. That's how you can get burned. This is not the time of day to throw away your profits, as we always like to say there, Arun. We can't really say that enough. I mean, we talk about that whole time of day thing. It's 11:30. Most traders, a lot of traders, they might only trade the first half an hour of the day. Maybe they come back, look at the close. For us, I will still make executions if the setups are there, but for the most part, it's usually on lower shares, different risk parameters than 9:30. And I just wanted to point out very, very quickly, we talk about our winners and our losers. I like the 14 breakout on AAL. One of the things you've got to do is have an out. And I was giving it basically to this first support levels right before the open was support at 1370. I take it out, 30-cent hit, ho-hum, I walk away. If you hold on to this trade, you're staring, double that loss, continued trend to the downside. You can't fight these things sometimes, guys. So I sit here and I have a couple of negative stocks here. CGIX, we took a hit on. AAL, we took a hit on. Remains to be seen where IBIO will be if this new short that comes in is a complete disaster. I might go negative on that one. But it's about limiting those losses. If you hold this, if you average into it, all of a sudden you're getting it out like 13.30. That's how you turn things into disaster, guys. So risk reward is everything. I know we might have different entry points. We might have different exit points. We might have different risk tolerance. But the overall ideas for structure and how and why you manage risk, those will carry through them regardless of your trading strategy. You've got to have those outs and stay disciplined. That's what it's all about here. I love the look Arun is giving us where he's talking a lot about his multiple time frames on the charts. I tend to go off a 1 and a 3, occasionally jump to a 10, but he's a little bit more in depth, and that's fine. Everyone is going to have a different way of skinning that cat, as they like to say.
Okay, so let's go back to Microsoft. Remember, I mentioned Microsoft when it went to 216.50, and I said, well, at this point, there's a possibility of a trap. Of course, it's got to do this and that. I set the edges at 215 or 216.52. If it went back up there, I'd go for the long. Looks like we're going to run that trap. We're really close to running that trap down at 215. So what that means is they try to break out. They flush all the stops out. Now we're going back through. This is a great trade if you can get through that 215. So 215 short. We're at 215.30. You can see this happen right now. If we can get below 215, I'm going to go ahead and go short with the high being 216.52 up there. So that's a great setup. Sometimes, guys, the best trades are going to be the trades that actually fail initially. You're thinking it's a breakout. It does something like this, right? Well, keep in mind, Amgen did that to me earlier, and I went ahead and did not. Actually, Amgen went fast in one direction. Because it went that fast, I moved the order, and then it flipped around and went in the opposite direction, and we made $1.50 on there, or $1.25 average on Amgen. So those kind of trades are much better, I think, than the actual breakout initially, because it gets a lot of people going the wrong way. Then everyone has to get out, or most people that go in that direction are looking for certain criteria, and then everyone has to get out, and then that pushes the stock in the opposite direction much faster. So those kind of setups are great. That's what I'm looking for on Microsoft here. 215 break with 216.52 on the stop there. That's one trade. And of course, SRN is just bleeding away here. It's down at 815. I have very little hope for this stock. This stock is, yeah, I'll just wait this one out. I'll let it play itself out, but I have very little hope. If it ends up being a hit, it is what it is.
What do you have in SRNE, just out of curiosity?
52.
52 long?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one to watch here. I mean, I'm sitting here in the reversal short side, and you ever wonder how two people can have different positions and both lose on it? So certainly possible if it hangs out in the middle. It's getting hard to fight Neo here, and if it gets past like 75, 80, there's no way I can hang on to this short. I mean, you're going to have it in this consolidation range. If it doesn't give you the flush down into VWAP, you can't hold it forever. I did mention, the last time I checked in and how impressive the buying is on this name, so I would not rule out the top end break. Yes,
Your Big C is almost at 100, by the way.
Thank you very much there, Arun. I don't want to get triggered into that one when sort of blindly here. I do have an order sort of already through protecting me at 100 even, but I'm not entering that trade until it breaks into that last dollar, 99 to 100. I'm not going to short it too early, guys. That's one thing you want to make sure you don't do here, jumping in way too early, giving myself more risk than I want on this trade. But I am going to short it at some point. Big C. It's wow. It's already past 11:35. Let's go to Valerie at the big screen.
Hey guys, welcome to the European update. Europe closed mostly in a negative territory. Let me update you on the numbers. Warsaw down 1.1%. Britain is down 1.03%. And Switzerland is down 0.49%. France and Germany both up 0.14, 0.13%. That's all with the Europe. And back to traders.
So I'm going to tell you right now, it didn't give any indication of a short. I mean, I looked at it. It came into that $99 to 100 range on Big C, and there was just absolutely nothing to dig my teeth into to want to jump in front. That means if I don't like the short, I'm reversing into a breakout long. I've quickly scalped out a little bit here in front of both 101 and now what looks like it's going to be potentially, wow, 102 is looking like it's going to come in here as well. I want to make sure I take a couple of thirds off. It just feels like it's a little bit overblown and it's getting a little bit tricky liquidity wise. And as I say it, I'm only gonna give this one to like 99.50 or so. The amount of spread opening up here, it gave you like 101.20. I did take a scalp out of 1/3, but wasn't quick enough to see if I could get any more out here, guys. It feels like this one wants to make a reversal, and if it does, I still want to be shorting this name ultimately in Big C. We do take a bit of a win here, so even if I have to take it out on the downside, it won't be a big hit. But now that I'm hunting for the short, I got to be out of the long position first, guys. Big C could be coming in. Neo, I want to go roller coaster ride, guys, because as I get out of Big C and now I'm going to look for the short entry here, Neo flushes me out. I could not hold it past that 75. It's a risk thing. I had 55 to the mid-range on that short side trade, and I just could not fight it. Just entirely too strong in NIO to be going against that party. I'm all out now of Big C and going to work my way into my first short of this one. It just didn't look good initially when it tested 100, but Arun just mentioned, a failed break sometimes is a better entry point for a short than just going in front of resistance. So maybe some people that broke out in the 100 long are still holding it. I can give this one the high of day here at this point, which is 101.50. I might even add to it in the 100 range, willing to risk a couple of dollars, because if it rolls over, I think 94 is not a bad target at all, and that'll give us like a $5 winner, guys.
Yeah, if that stock rolls over, given how the spread is moving, look out below, because I think all the bids are just going to move out of the way. The way it's been moving up, there's a potential for this thing to actually fall apart. You saw in BABA when this thing actually just decided to turn. And, BABA was muted because there's a lot more volume on BABA too. But when this thing decides to turn, it just moves very quickly. Well, that's the exact same thing I'd be concerned about on Big C, because it's got no liquidity. The spread is huge. And, there you go. It's cracking 98. And now
I just tried to get more. I couldn't get it.
Neil's starting to get more and more shorts there. Okay. Back to the futures, guys. Futures, again, remember I mentioned that 34.30, around that area, there was a lot of early sell side pressure. That's why I wasn't going for the long, even though I'm looking for longs inside this area. I'm concerned about what's happening here. This is a 5-minute chart. This is going to be a problem. And of course, it's backing off again. So here's what I got to do. Contingency plan is going to be this. 34.10 on the downside break. Let me pull up the chart here. 34.10 on the downside break. That should open up depending on how it goes. If it goes right now, I think we can get a 34.20, so we can risk about 10 points on the break below 34.10. Start taking profit in front of 3,400. Know that 33.75 is still there from a couple days ago. So 33.75 is there. 34.10 is the break I would look for. And of course, if 34.10 goes, 34.20 will be the stop, depending on how this plays out. Of course, if it goes to the buy side, I'm looking for it to dip. After it goes through 34.35, dip back into 34.30, find me some more buying, then I go long towards that 34.50. So there's a lot of ifs and buts, or ifs, ands, or buts scenarios. So there's a lot of plans that I kind of work my trades like that, right? So I kind of identify areas and I said, oh, if this happens, then I'll do this. But then there ends up being, well, if this happens and I do this, and if that happens, I got to do that. Well, you got to kind of make that whole branch well ahead of time. So when it actually comes down to actually executing the trade, you're not second guessing, you're not thinking twice, you're just kind of sending the order because you know exactly what path you're going to go on taking the trades, right? And so that's what I'm kind of creating ahead of time. So I know in the event something happens, I know exactly what I have to do. I don't have to think twice. I'm just going to go ahead and send the order and work its way, or let it work itself out after I send the order. 215 is still the level I'm looking on Microsoft. We're going to wait for that. And Brendan, what do you got?
I just saw Ford here, guys. Market trying to break back to the downside. Ford, F, yeah, we don't really talk about it a lot, but F, new lows on the day. They're recalling a whole bunch of Ford Explorers, brand new Ford Explorers, and Lincoln Aviators apparently because of an issue. So Ford a little bit negative here, guys.
So I did get more shares in Big C here, guys. Look, at this point, it's pretty binary for this type of a trade here. You get the failed break, which I didn't take, and then ultimately we'll win on the first half, and then the second half is going to be a loser. So it's overall flat on that one. But this short, it's either going to hold the high of day, which is now at 101.50, or we're going to get that retracement first to 94, and then maybe into this sort of 92 range, hopefully all the way down into 90 even as well. Either way, it's one or the other. Or flip a switch. There's not much that would change my mind here. You got to give a trade like this to that high. I like the 100 on the daily, so if that's where the failed break happened, that would be my preference. So that's what we got. I got to put the trade on here. As much as it's a fantastic move to the upside on positive news, most of these things got to turn at some point, and I'm putting my money on it right here, right now. Getting away from Big C to another short that we did put on, I just want to quickly go back to Honeywell, and we are sort of running out of time on the session. I didn't anticipate this would be a slow trade, reversing to the short side at 164.50 on Honeywell, but man, is it just very, very slowly creeping to the downside. I mean, it's about to take out 164, so good in the money, 50 cents. Oh, give me a test of this bottom here at 163.50. If that gets taken out, yeah, we could be looking at yesterday's close was just below 160. If it gives everything back, that's fantastic for us. I don't want to get that greedy, but it looks like it could come in. $1.50 almost in the money on Big C. Oh, I need more than that, guys. We talked about 94.95 for the first area target, and then 91.92 for the rest. So we're looking for a bigger win here off that 100 reversal on Big C. But Honeywell now working to the money downside as well. Brendan, what do you have for us,
another
buddy?
one in that group, Salesforce, guys, looking like it might want to give up here at, excuse me, 216. Bit of a resistance area for Honeywell. Another one, Honeywell, Amgen, and Salesforce being added to the Dow 30 coming up on Monday, guys.
And there goes Microsoft, guys, through 215. I've gone ahead and got that short. 215 break, 216.52 is the top. If that's a trade that we've been looking forward to. So that's a $1.15 risk. If we get to the downside, I think we can at least get down to 213.25 or so. That's 1-to-1, at least 1-to-1, depending on how it plays itself out below 213.50. So there's your break on 215 at Microsoft. I'm taking that short. Given how the market was turning around inside that 34.30, I was worried about that sell side. And given that Microsoft is a big component of these indexes, you know what? I'm fairly happy with the fact that this trapped out, and at the same time, the futures are turning around with that sell side pressure as well. So I have high confidence in this trade. I'm looking forward for it to actually go through 214 even, because that could be another potential entry. At that point, 215 we've got with $1.15 risk. This is now about what, 18 cents in the money now. It's moving fast. I think the market's also going with it. We are moving 24, 34, 23, 50. We are moving fairly quickly through with the market as well. 215 even on the break. Of course, if it takes 214, there might be another trade if I can get 214.50 on the stop. And then, of course, we're going down through 213.50, 213.25. That's where I'm going to start to look to take profit. So that's the setup that I've got on Microsoft. Actually, it's moving back up now. So it's going to take some time, but it is, the potential is there because it looks like the futures are starting to pick up that early sell side pressure that I was concerned about. So that is back in play. Until we take that 34.35, I think the sell side pressure is going to be the main component driving this market.
It better be. I'm short Big C, 98.62. That's the money, a couple of bucks. I'm short Honeywell, 164.40. That's breaking to the downside. It was $1 in the money, but it bounced off that low since the open. I'm short IBIO. I'm short RNWK. I'm short Sorrento. I have a couple of longs in like buyouts that I'm spread trading, but anything with momentum to it, I find myself short and holding for some bigger wins, which is a little bit unusual, but the market is sliding down. I got some entries that I like. The structure was good on some of these trades. I just need more out of Big C for it to be worth the risk that we put on here off that 100 fail break. Brendan has a little something for us. I don't know who asked that question. He does not smoke as far as I know, but.
No, never once, never have smoked, nor will I. Crocs, guys, to the downside here today, looking like it might want to break to new lows, just as a market is as well. We did get a gap higher. This is the name we don't really trade a lot. It is thinly traded, not a lot of volume today, but they're teaming up with Vera Bradley to provide some footwear. So a little deal today for Crocs, guys.
I don't even care to, I don't care. I know people make fun of Crocs here and there. They're comfortable, man. I got hardwood at home, and I'm old, so I got like bad knees from the older days when I thought I was an athlete. So I put those Crocs on, and it's a little bit easier every single day, and I don't care who knows it. So you can laugh and snicker all you want. They're very, very functional, and it's not that I'm sitting here advertising Crocs. If they want to sponsor us, go ahead. I'll take a free pair.
It's very interesting that there's one thing of what you just said that was very interesting. You said I wear Crocs when I thought I was an athlete. So you were never really an athlete, were you?
No, I thought I was an athlete. Look, I'll be perfectly honest with you guys. As I take what is going to be a $3 winner on the first half of Big C, I will say this. I used to run track back in the day, and that's one of those things where like there's fast and there's track fast. Like I could run. I'll take any of you guys in a race here, no questions asked. But you step on a track with like those like real dudes. Like I raced Robert Esme, the dude that ran for Canada back in the day at U of T. I ran at a U of T meet, and that guy was on a different level, man. I thought I was okay. I got absolutely destroyed, and I was coming in thinking I was pretty. Wow, those dudes that you see at the Olympics, on another level. So I'm not that kind of guy. I can take some wins on you on a Big C for you here, guys. Though I do take some out at that 95 in front of that 94 ramp that we just saw, and again. I actually saw it turn shy of my target. I wanted to break down to 94 for a bigger win. But when I saw that happen, I just immediately removed liquidity to get out. So we take the rollover trade. Failed breaks sometimes are better than the short in front of resistance. If it takes out 94, next target somewhere between 90 and 92. I actually can't predict where it's going to be. Same thing. It dips into that range. And once it's between 90 and 92 or even just in front of 92, I'll look at the level 2, make a judgment call how it trades down there, and then get out again, hopefully for a monster win on Big C. Waited patiently for this. Could you have had it in front of 95 for a $5 win? Sure. Could you have had it in front of 98? Maybe. 100 was the level that I liked. I took a failed break there long, and now we got the short side trade on with 10 minutes to go. Actually going to be my I shouldn't have started saying that. It could be my best trade of the day. Remains to be seen. I probably shouldn't have opened my mouth about that before I was done.
Okay, I know this is a segment that you guys used to do, but don't do anymore. Trade of the day. Since Neil talked about his potential trade of the day, I'm going to go ahead and make mine. I'm just going to go over it for everyone who missed it earlier. Baba is going to be my trade of the day. You saw this consolidation. This is a 60-minute chart here. Consolidation, round number, 280. Took the break there, put the stop down $1 below. And then it just completely took off here. It did hesitate. Well, it didn't take off right away. It went through to 281.50, hesitated a little bit. So I decided because of that, I was up $1 and change on it. So I cashed out half there, made $1, made sure that if in the event that the trade failed, it was going to cost me absolutely nothing. I made $1, covered my risk reward there, and then it just absolutely went on a tear, and I just managed it out all the way down to 286.11. Initially, the stop was supposed to be 286.50. The order slid. That happens sometimes when a market is aggressive. So I want it out. I don't want to be a part of this if the market's going to turn on me. So of course I'm crossing. I mentioned to you guys about how sometimes I use routing keys to aggressively get out. That's one of those routing keys. What those keys do is just searches for volume and just kind of takes it all. So what I went ahead and did, got out, and here we are, just completely flat and waiting on Microsoft to work its way. What do you got, Brennan?
Vivo Power, guys, again, still kind of stuck in this range, but another volume alert here, big time spike, back through $5. So we got back below 5, just lifted it right back up again towards 540. So watch this area up here, 550, 560 area was that high from yesterday on VVPR. A lot of room to the downside. Look at the daily chart. A lot of room to the downside if this thing does ever roll over, guys.
Like I 1000% deserve this for I was out of my mouth, could be my best trade of the day, big C, before it actually continues to move to the downside. So look, if it rolls here and fails to get back to that 100, fantastic. You want to be giving this one to the high of the day. It could give a secondary push here, but it's kind of like when if you're a big poker fan. I mean, I'm a fan of poker traders kind of go hand in hand. It's kind of like when you do one of those slow roll an opponent, you so deserve to get sucked out. I talk about this one being potentially a trade of the day before I even exited for the bigger win, and I definitely deserve to get suckered on this one. So NVAX for me is still going to hold the biggest trade, and it could have been even bigger because I actually was looking at the setup here on NVAX in particular and thinking, man, if it, I always miss this initial trade in NVAX. It is what it is. We managed to hammer it usually a little bit later on. If it had come into that 112 to 115, I feel like that could have been my short of the day. It never happened. I take the other one in front of 112, and it was a good retracement, but not nearly as big as what I think could have been a bigger flush. Just need to maybe squeeze a few people out before getting a bigger move to the downside. With only a few minutes left to go, Brandon, what do you got?
Arun's been trading BABA a little bit today. Another one from China, JD.com, also having a nice day to the upside. A little bit of trade optimism, obviously some chatter coming out of Washington about some progress being made as far as the phase 1 and phase 2 deals for the China trade negotiations. Look at the daily chart on JD.com here. This thing's gone from 62 to almost 80 in basically a week. So huge move to the upside for JD.com. Up again today, almost 4%, guys.
100% there, guys. And I think for some of you guys, and I see Santo A, one of people in the chat, whoever it might be, talking a little bit about Big C, buying on any kind of weakness. I think you have to always have different time frames. We're day trading here, right? So I would anticipate that my short is going to resolve itself probably before 1 o'clock here. Certainly, if it makes another fail here, that's going to roll into 90, 92. I had nothing against the company, and it's not that I wouldn't be bullish on it. In a longer sense, if I see a parabolic move like this as a day trader, it behooves me to look for an opportunity to short when I have the shorts available to me. It's going to stall at some point. There are going to be some people holding the bag long at the top that will panic out of it, that are either entering a swing trade or day trading themselves. So I'm just looking here to play some of the price action. You can certainly look overall at a name like this and sort of get a little bit of a perspective. I mean, look, regardless of what kind of a break you had here, if you're long, it could be a 78, it could be 80, maybe it's an 85 break to the long side. People got to take profit if they're short-term traders here, and I want to jump in here when the buying does stall out and take advantage of those opportunities. So I am going to come back into the money on this trade, but I need it to come down to 92 for me to be really, really happy with the short. It's been a good ride the first half. The second half, I hope to be even better. Only 5 minutes to go. People are asking me what lunch is. I'll have to turn around and see if I can't check, although it does smell like chicken, which I think surprises nobody.
Yeah, so for me, I'm just short on Microsoft. You see it on the screen here, 214.98. I'm just waiting for that trade to work itself. And of course, SRNE just keeps sliding down. Those are the only 2 trades. But I do want to put people on the spot here, just because I see it in our chat here. Rob from production has challenged Neil, I believe, to a race.
That's a bad move on his part.
And there's a lot of trash talking going back and forth. So even if I'm not here, don't ever forget that there has been a challenge issued. And please make sure that there is video of this, because I do want to see it as well. So Rob from production and Neil challenge. I'm just concerned. I don't want Neil to pull a hammy. He's got kids at home. As you age, sometimes things get tight. Who knows how much stretching he's done? So I'm just concerned about that. But for the time being, we're just.
I'm concerned about honestly, I'm concerned about Rob's psyche. I mean, we have a fantastic production crew here. They do an unbelievable job giving you a professional look. It's not me that looks good on camera. They make us look good, to be honest with you. And Rob, I just, honestly, I don't want this to happen to you. I know you think you're fast, but this is not going to end well for you. That's all I'm going to say. I'll even let you pick the distance. If you anything from we'll call it 50 meters, so it'll be long enough. If you want to go up to 200, I don't care. We can pick anything in between if you want. I'll let you pick whatever it's going to be, and then we can have that challenge. Before we get out of here, we talk about winners and we talk about losers. Every single time I try this counter trend, pick the high, and then say to myself, man, this stock has way more buying and a lot of more strength than I was anticipating. My gut is telling me this one could go up, and then I sort of stick it with the short, and then I get burned. I should just always reverse long in that situation. There's nothing scientific about it. It just, when it bounced off 1650 again, and then I saw the amount of buying that was going through in this 70 range, it struck me as a bit abnormal. A lot of times the rollover at lunchtime, it would be a little bit deeper, maybe even test VWAP there. But this looks very, very strong at this point. So NEO was a great breakout trade yesterday. I definitely missed this one off at the open to the long side, and I've given back everything I made on it. I had one long that was pretty good, but testing a couple of shorts, I'm going to throw that money away and be essentially close to flat on the stock. So don't fight the train. Maybe should have gone with my gut that time and just simply reverse long and gone with the trend. Brennan, what do you got?
About that time, guys. A couple minutes to go here. Let's have a look at what is available to you right now. Valeria has the link for you in the chat. Go check it out. Yeah, stop limit versus a marketable stop order. We'll tell you the difference between the two, when to use one, when to use the other, all the things you need to know. Great video there. Lots of good stuff in that one. Go check that out. Let's have a look at what is coming up as far as earnings are concerned after market tonight and or before the market opens tomorrow. A couple of names on here, guys, that are pretty interesting around earnings. Typically, Urban Outfitters, one that stands out. The retailers have been in focus of late. Nordstrom's up there as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to talk about Nordstrom, Urban Outfitters, and leave out the one in the middle that our crew usually goes giggly over, because the only time we even talk about Dick's Sporting Goods is when they have earnings. So I know they're going to be excited to be rather immature about it. Oh, but certainly I think, like you mentioned, Brennan, that space is going to be in play. Retail is going to be pushing around here. It's going to be hard for me to get away from some of the electric car names that you're seeing us trade and the COVID vaccine-related names that are being in play. Worth noting, Big C is coming back to that 95, guys. So I'll tweet it out when we do get a resolution one way or the other. It's either going down to 90.92 or it's breaking the high. I've already taken out what I will. It's either going to be a break at the top or a home run trade for me on that name. Anything on that board that interests you there, Arun?
Not really. I mean, we'll see what here's the thing, right? When it comes to those kind of situations where I just let them play themselves out, sometimes you'll see moves where they're actually tradable, they set up properly, and I'll go ahead and trade them and work the setup. And sometimes they're not. So what I'm going to do is when I come in the morning, a lot of these will already have done what they need to do, and I'll look at the setups because they will be at the top of the list because of the activity, because of the volatility. So I'll go through them and see which ones set up properly, which ones I want to put on my radar. So to start the day, I'm just going to kind of list off as we kind of close up shop here. I'm going to list off the stocks that I had on my radar today: NEO, BBY, CRM, AMGN, HON, GMHI, ADMA, PDR, POR, CHLL, IBIO, GVO, GPS, Honeywell, and NEO. Well, NEO twice, actually, but NEO. But I never got around to trading all of them. NEO was on the radar, but I wasn't looking at that long side. For whatever reason, I was looking at the short side. I mentioned to you guys earlier, 14.95 was the short that I was looking for. Never happened. I never thought about the long side at all, and that happens sometimes. But hey, you know what? Have your list of stocks. I don't try to deviate too much from them. Of course, there are certain situations, but the reason I like this, the watch list, or my list personally, is because I know those setups I want to watch as the trade goes on or the day goes on. So for me, I put that down, I work those setups, and I'm going to do the exact same for all those stocks that are on the radar tomorrow on that list that you mentioned there, Neil.
Yeah, 100%. That's what it's all about here. I mean, I've gone over hopefully everything that I still have on. I might not have mentioned I still have Sorrento, which I know we're both still stuck in. It's not really doing anything, and I can quickly jump back to you here for SRNE. Again, it's just hovering around VWAP. I got my line in the sand. I had that 840 this entire time. I've worked my price to about VWAP here, so it's either going to break, give me a 25-cent hit, or we're going to get a flush past $8. We're going to get a nice win there, guys. But I can get on board with this one. You guys don't know what the setup here. I can see what national day it is before we throw to Blair, but it is time to get to her to see what national day it is today.
Thank you, Neil, and hey, trading family. Thank you very much for another great day together. Welcome all the new members and new subscribers. Your support means everything for us and our main motivation. Guys, before you go watch our next video about where we are comparing stop limit with stop orders, please hit the thumbs up. We need like around just 100 likes to reach 1,000, and I will break dance in the animation for you. And for now, happy whiskey sour day, everyone.
Sour, okay, I could use one right now, actually. I like those kind of drinks. I'm a cocktail guy. For all you people that are out there that drink the hard liquor, I'm right up there with you. I also like my cocktails, whiskey sour, right up my alley there. And did Valeria just say she's going to break dance, or did she say
it's a virtual break dance?
Oh, that's kind of lame. You should break dance for real, because you did that floss for real, so why not break dance for real? You don't I think you should do it. I think that's a very realistic goal. If we can get to, what is it, 100K is the next target?
Goal.
We're at 72?
No, 100 subs.
It's very hard to throw someone deeper under the bus than you did right there than to say it's a very realistic goal.
I'm only here for a week. I can do whatever I want, and I'm out.
That's a fair point. Arun can do whatever he wants. I love it. Look, it's been a fantastic one to hear Arun knocking it out of the park 2 days in a row. I know you guys love when he drops lines. Like two days in a row, I've seen Arun be going through some of his names. I'm just sitting here watching my program stream, listening to him, and then learning a lot from his approach. So I love that we were able to give this to you guys. It's been a lot of fun. National Whiskey Sour Day. Make sure you enjoy that. But you want to make sure you tune in to our Market Wisdom page. We use stop orders all of the time. We just dropped the link to the video. The difference between market stops and limit stops is very important to understand, and we do drop these limits, these orders, and these sort of videos for you every single day to further your education, guys. It's been so much fun today. I'm going to go down the line quickly because we're over time. Valeria doing an awesome job as always. Don't break yourself learning how to break dance. Arun filling in for Sean admirably, looking great in his hoodie. And Brendan Wickens. I'm Neil Roberts. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Trader TV Live. See you tomorrow, guys.